just let it soak.
Evening.
Works really well.
System 3 is another good one as well.
I've thought about buying the liquid diamond.
What about the?
When I'm buying it in person, but I never pulled the trigger on it.
Yeah, clear cast is another good one as well.
Okay.
It's crystal clear.
Well,
Something
I
like
guess
that you might
I'll
want to try
pull it off and square it up and cut this. See if I can cut some of this crack off.
What about the UV resin? How does it do with moisture and that kind of thing?
And getting a light down in there to make it cure.
Yeah,
It's only you
it's
can only go
amazing.
so you can only go so thick with UV resin, a quarter inch,
Yeah.
maybe something like that.
Right? Yeah, you'd have to do it in layers, I'm sure.
It would be
Liquid
so
diamonds-
time consuming to go through the layers.
Yeah, liquid diamonds is really cool, but as far as mixing colors, you have to wait so long for that resin to thicken up. It might take a couple of hours before that resin is ready to be mixed to multicolors, because the colors will just all blend together.
Yeah, you got to do individual pours. If you,
Yeah.
At least that's what I do.
It's a lot different. You just got to mix it and go eat a meal and come back or
Yeah.
something. You know, it's like with Alumilite, you got 7 minutes. You better be ready to mix colors, because it's not going to blend. 7 to 12 minutes. I use the slow, but I can't use it in the anything with moisture.
Yeah. Yeah, I got about probably 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes with system 3.
You got to be quick. Always mix before I mix my hardener in. They tell you not to, but before I mix my hardener in, I mix my color in my.
That's what I do.
That's what I do. And,
Yep.
you know, and
Yeah,
I just,
that's what I've done too. I haven't done a lot of it, but yep.
you know, it's
Now
going to dilute. It's going to dilute the darkness a little bit, but not much. You know.
Now, in the system 3, I understand there's a whole bunch of different hardeners from different speeds and everything else.
Correct.
Mhm.
So how long you have to mix it is all dependent on which hardener you mix with it.
Correct.
And that's basically an epoxy primarily that the marine industry uses, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a total boat you're talking about?
No, system 3.
No,
System 3.
Familiar with that.
It's an
There's a
epoxy that the
System
marine
3.
industry uses. It's pretty pricey, but it's an epoxy they use.
All of it's pricey, dude.
Well, it seems to be higher than a lot of them though.
I think the cheapest I've found anything is 80 cents an ounce or something like that. It's the cheapest I can find.
I like it because mixing it and then pouring it, there's so limited on the bubbles that are created.
Okay, got to jump in here. Hey, good evening, everybody. I've been
Hey, Eddie.
in the background watching
Good evening, Eddie.
and getting an education on epoxy and fills and stuff, and hope all the novice turners out there are right on board with me. I love these conversations because I'm still a little wary about some of that stuff. So the more I hear your pros, your cons, and that's what we're here for, the better I feel about it. That was a beautiful piece of wood that Doug's got. I hope he plays with it. I used to call it a bottomless box. I would turn it and round off the bottom and not put a foot on it. And it would rock. It was nice. And then do a nice lid and a finial. And I had a bunch of them. I gotta find out where the boss hit them at. We have a pretty good program lined up tonight for you folks. Meeting wise, we made a fusion art, not we said we, because this is a unified we. Our gallery and demonstration master is Dane Chandler. He handles that for us, voluntarily handles it for us. But we're going to double his pay next time. But he lined up, yeah, all right. He lined up Paul Hannaby from the UK. Paul's going to join us tonight with a demonstration. We're going to start that one off a little bit earlier than normal. I imagine we'll do that about 6:45, quarter to the hour. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
All right. And then our webmaster, our master webmaster, David, has got a program for us on how to calculate sizes for urns.
Yes.
my wife thinks that's a great idea. I should get mine built right away. Really wonder. I went to the doctor on Monday and got the best report I've had in a couple of years from a really, really great doctor. And, you know, she gave a lot of hope and a lot of direction, a lot of fussing, but hey, it was a good day. We
Eddie,
got a good
just tell her
demo.
to go
We got
get a
good-
Foot Locker.
Pardon?
Just tell her to go get a Foot Locker. You'll fit in that. Just go get an Army
Alright.
Foot Locker. That'll make a good earn for you.
Okay, I thought Ronnie was in charge of that kind of humor.
I just get blamed for that kind of stuff.
All right, okay, all right, that's it. Our gallery is growing. We have a lot of photographs, and I had to combine last week's gallery with this week's gallery because technical problem last week. One of these things didn't get plugged in. I don't know why. So we have that gallery up for you later on. And we're always in the market for demonstrations. And we always looking for people to share technique. Now, a little while ago, I heard 5 or 6, maybe 8 of y'all talking about I'm using motorboat this and top this and the expensive this and the less expensive that and all. I would like to see, really would like to see a comparison of some of these things and do it here. You know, and if Dane's good at one product and Doug's good at another product and Billy likes a third product and Trace likes another product, you know, I have no problem with all 4 of those guys talking at one time. Not all over top each other, but I mean, we can do that and have 4 bangs on the screen or 6 bangs on the screen and have a chat with these folks about what's good about this one, what's good about that one. Do I need a pressure pot? Do I do it? You know what I'm talking about? So if you're wondering about this product, I'm looking and Dane's going to line you up. Watch what you say. Dane doesn't miss a boat here.
That's right.
He's going to line you up to be part of the demonstration for us. And that's the beauty about Worldwide Woodturners. Everything is fair. Remember, we can't be foul. We can't talk bad about anybody's work. There's a no but guarantee. I can't say, I like that but. The but doesn't count. You can't do it. We also are not foul. No coarse language or anything. We really no politics, no religion. Hey, and I tell you what, lately the politics jokes are flying around like crazy, but I'm leaving them alone. I'm leaving them alone.
Yeah, staying out of it.
Yeah, I've seen some beautiful photographs, and I hope he's with us. Joe Klein from here in New Orleans area turned some bowls, and they're small, and they put them up against some coins to give you an idea of the size. And they're really, really nice work. And if you haven't played with that, play with something small. I brought a block in this morning. I'm going to cut a goblet out of it, but I'd like to do a little bit of a video on it, on how to hold it and get around to turning it, because I get a lot of questions from turners about how do I hold this? How do I hold that? There's a guy that says, I have to buy this. I need to buy that. Well, let me tell you, folks, in the last 25 years, if there's a gizmo or a gadget, I probably was stupid enough to buy it. And then find out I could have done it with a whole lot less money and something I already had. So that's why I want to talk about. Let's get back to basics. Really, your best friend in the world is that faceplate you have. You don't like it because it looks like a piece of pot metal good for a boat anchor. That can be an awesome tool for you if you consider it's not a steel faceplate. It is a metal component that you can bolt items to, and what you can bolt to it is almost unlimited. So you talk about jam chucks, reverse chucks, spreaders, holders, mandrels. Somebody showed me a picture the other day. They turned bottle stoppers, and he got the stoppers from Ruth Niles. We all know Ruth, most of us do. He got the stoppers from Ruth Niles, but he didn't know that he needed a mandrel. He was going to figure it out. He sent me a photograph. He had his 3/8 bolt, 3/8/16 bolt, held in a drill chuck, and he was using that. But the drill chuck kept sneaking out of the Morse taper. So, and he didn't know about the drawbar thing. So then he got to playing with it, and he put that bolt through a faceplate. And then he sized the faceplate down to the size of the cap on the butt on the stopper, and he runs down to that. He made it out of corian. He said he copied one of my ideas, and he run down to the piece of corian to size it, and he says, "Was this worth it?" Well, the mandrel would have cost you $30. You made that for the cost of a 3/8" bolt. You do the math. And that's what we're here for. You got a tip or a trick, an idea. You've done something in your shop that works, safely works. That's why we got to keep an eye on Doug Rowe. He comes up with some things, folks. And remember, he's grandfathered in as a lifetime member. And I really don't know what it means. He sent me a note that said that one day. You know, you can't get rid of him. It's like crabgrass.
I'm the only one that wears the women's clothes in this club, unless you're a woman. I got it on that.
I think we got about 115 people that will attest to that, Doug.
Yeah, I have no comment. I have no comment.
that one.
So
New
got a
Army,
funny.
Gordon. You do what you
That's-
want to do in the new army. You know, don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I got out before.
Now, well, we're getting into politics. Let's not go there. Oh no.
Yeah,
You know.
that's a good call. That's a good call. No politics.
Get me spun up.
Live Klinger. Long live Klinger.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So hey, Eddie. So Doug,
Yes, sir.
Doug rolled through town here, and so we met up and actually got to meet each other face to face today. And so at the restaurant where we was going to have lunch at, I was looking for somebody that had a skirt on, and there was nobody in there except for, Doug dressed in business casual. So he doesn't wear that attire all the time.
He probably doesn't wear it out in public. He probably just does it when he, feels comfortable. I don't know. What do you think, Doug?
Only when my wife's not around. She doesn't approve.
Oh, if you haven't been with us, folks, we've had Doug. We haven't. Doug has been in a blonde wig, a bikini, two tops, several other things that make, well, I got to get my eyes checked again. I think I've tried to poke them out or something, but we have fun. We really do. And it's not, I want to explain to folks that are just joining us, there's no click. There isn't. We hear from people all the time. How can you get in on that? Tune in, be here for the meetings, be part of the gang. We have a regular gang. It involves right now 72 folks. And they can talk about anything they want to talk about. They can raise their hand in the middle of a demonstration and say, hey, I got a question about this, or hey, I got a question about that, or why'd you do this? We don't want you to hesitate. If it's in your mind, it's in somebody else's mind. Step up to the plate. Take a swing at it. I see Paul Hannaby's joined us. He's from the UK, and he's going to be doing of demonstrations tonight. And he's one of these folks that has a lot of club demonstrations or demonstrations for other groups. Seasoned at Turner, we don't want to say professional Turner ever. Seasoned at Turner, who can share his information quite well. We have other members that do that too. Matt Harbor is with us. He does demonstrations for his club and other groups, and that's nice. I don't think we'll see Bob Moffett here this evening. I got a note from Bob that is teaching at J.C. Campbell right now. Yeah,
he's teaching.
So, and Bob is out. That Bob, we call Bob Birdhouse Bob.
Yes,
because he can do a little birdhouse into major art, and it is something else. It is. He normally pops up with something. And he does other work that's really, really nice too. So artistic and energetic turnings, and we'd like to see that. We have a handful of fellows that's in our turners, that's in the meeting tonight, lady and gentlemen, and they joined us to share information. Now, do we have a membership list? I'm looking at my note here, and we do not have a membership list. We don't have a membership requirement. Oh, you want the financial report? Dane, can you give them the financial report real quick?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's
Okay.
everything is balanced. It's zero.
Okay, great. See?
Liabilities and
With that, well,
assets, they all equal zero.
Yeah.
Perfect.
all right.
Doing good.
And we come out on top of that every week. We have no money. We don't have a need or a want to have money in this club. Because that's not the important part. But if you want to be on our contact list, see our master webmaster, he's got a lot of time on his hands. He has developed this way for us to share information about each other that will keep the bots away. You know what the bots are? The bots are those 35, 40 emails I get overnight and the 10 or 12 spam calls I get every day. And he can keep some of that away from you by tricking them. This is how we do it. And if you've been here before, you know what it is. If you want to be on a contact list, all you have to do is send us the information you want to have on a contact list. There's no form, there's no format, there's no requirement, there's no no-nos. It is what we want is what you want to tell us. So if you want to put your name in, Eddie Castellan, my email address, cataneddy@gmail.com, and my phone number, my mailing address, my website, my YouTube channel, my Facebook channel. Yeah, it's unlimited. It really is. So if you want to put any part of that in our contact list, go to the chat section right now. You have chat on your screen and type it in. All right, you're on a machine that doesn't have chat. Other way is email it to our website. Go to our website under contact and put the information in there. Dave will get it from that. He gets to see that email. Before anybody else, Dave gets to see that. Now, if you put it in chat tonight, people that are tuned to the channel and with us can save the chat and will have the information. Otherwise, when he puts it up on the internet, the chat goes to the internet, he would have deleted that information. So it's not in bot territory. And then how do you get a list of it? You go to our website, under contact, you'll find a little button that you press to get a roster. You fill out the form exactly as it asks, because you have to read and follow the directions and type it in just like it says. The password's Captain, C-A-P-T-A-I-N. That was Doug's choice, David's choice. And then you request it. Oh, there's a block you have to uncheck. And he's got a lot of tricks and stumblers are in there just to hold back the automatics. When you get it done, it will email you the list. Just that way. It's not a live list, it's a list. So if you see somebody's name, if you see Dane's name, you click on his email. If it's there, the email's there. Click on it, copy it, and post it in the email.
Yep. Email's there, my number is there. I'm in my shop all day long from the time I get up till darn near the time I go to bed. So I know I'm always available. You can give me a call anytime. But with that, earlier Eddie, you were talking about chucks and whatnot with the faceplate and eccentric chucks. And Don Schwab has a picture or something to show on it. So let's bring Don up here.
There he is.
Hey, Don. I can't hear you.
Don, you're muted, sir.
Good evening.
All
I
right.
have to turn my mic on. I've used a metal lathe, 4-jaw chuck, which are independent chucks, jaws, I should say. And I turned an 1¼ inch 8 threaded shaft that chucks up in that 4-jaw chuck. And so I can mount any of my woodchucks onto that spindle. And by throwing the off center, I now have an off center with my standard woodchucks, just by throwing the off center. Do you understand what I'm saying, or have I lost you?
Oh, no, I once did that. Yes.
I have
By accident. I didn't mean it to go off center. I couldn't figure out why it was off center.
I have a couple of pictures if I can share them. I don't know
Yeah.
if
Go
they'll
ahead.
work.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
gotta have your pictures open on your screen already, and then from there you go to file share from the Zoom app.
Yeah,
Share
they have it
screen,
someplace
share
on the
screen.
computer opened.
Okay, I went
You go to
share screen. Do you see it or I lost it?
And we still see just you, Don. You've got to pick the window where your pictures are up on your computer. So you go share screen and then you got to pick a window.
I hate to sound stupid, but I did that do
There
it?
we go. Now it's start.
There
Okay.
you go.
There it is.
Okay, what you're looking at is the 4-jaw chuck with the wood chuck, which is a gold one, threaded into the spindle that's into the 4-jaw chuck.
Okay.
The 4-jaw metal chuck, just by throwing the 1 jaw off center, it allows you to move it. Here, I'm gonna go to the next screen. There, that's showing it off center. Do you see it?
Yep.
Boy, that's
Yes.
really off center.
Yeah, well, it's just showing you how by the one
Right.
chuck being off center, if you can see my cursor,
One jaw.
and it's quite off center there. And here's a piece that I just did this morning for doing a curling bowl. This is on set, was turned off center. But the unique nice part about this, after I turned this spindle, this little spigot, I took the 4-jaw metal chuck out and put the regular wood chuck back in without ever unmounting it. This piece was always into the wood chuck. And I put it back in the lathe, and now I'm back in center so I can finish the outside.
Oh, that's
Cool.
very neat.
So
Yeah.
that's basically what I've got. Thank you.
No,
that
Don,
was good.
you
That was great. Thank you.
had what we're looking
I
for
like
tonight. There
Yeah,
you
for
go.
folks that have 4-jaw chucks, like metalworking, that's a good alternative for doing that.
I say it like this, but Harbor Freight's got those things fairly inexpensive, and just make sure you don't buy a boat anchor. It works.
Right. Yeah.
Doesn't work, bring it right back. But I thought it was like a regular 4-jaw chuck when I bought mine, and then I got educated. I went and bought the Stronghold. Because
Yeah.
I had a hell of a time keeping it lined up. I was spending more time lining it up than I was turning. But thank you, Don. Appreciate you sharing with us tonight. And folks, we see that's what we do. We share the information you have and what you want to explain. I mean, that's a little trick, but it's not a total trick. It's just a little trick. It's a way to get around things or get over the hurdles. That's how I should say. And I get around things, get over hurdles. And I did mention to make sure it works properly and you understand it. So what I'm saying is don't put it in there and hope it's right. Put the bolt in and make sure you have no vibration, no movement. Tap on it a little bit. If you get a little vibration, think about what you added to the weight of it on the front end. That harmonics is going to take it apart. So, but be safe above all else. Be safe. Later on this evening at our meeting, we'll have a safety word from Jeff Shell. He's our director. A total volunteer position. Another one. And folks do what they do, what they want to do to turn it better. And there's a seat in this counter for you. If you want to be part of it on a tailgate, come on, jump on board. And don't forget about our challenge, our Freedom Pen Challenge never stops. We collect pens for all 6 services, Army, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. We collect pins for all those troops to protect our freedom and our way of life. And if you want to be part of that, turn a pin and send it to one of our contacts. They're all listed on our website, and you go directly to them. If you can't find them, or you don't understand it, send it to Doug Rowe. Doug Rowe takes care of putting them in the troops' hands. And Doug's gonna retire, and we gotta find somebody else to take over that job of sharing them, because, you know, you never know. He's gonna be ex-Army. You know, what do those guys do? They don't know. All right, we have a few minutes to do gallery if we have some folks up in gallery.
Yeah,
How does that work?
yeah. You put it
Tell
in
us
chat, and I'm gonna record it on a piece of paper, and then I'm gonna call you up in order, or at least in the order that I wrote it down. So here at the beginning, I may have a few of you out of order, but we're gonna go to Greg Bray.
Okay. You got me? Here I am.
Now we do, Greg.
Okay.
Got you
Whoop,
now.
talk again, Greg.
All right. Anybody turned any smoke wood first? American
No.
smoke wood. Okay.
Never heard of it.
I have a piece here. And
Oh, wow.
Gorgeous.
That's pretty.
this is turned, of course, it's turned in grain.
Right.
Wow.
And the smoke wood, the reason why nobody's turned it, back in the Civil War, this wood is really yellow. And back in the Civil War, they used to cut these trees down and use them for a yellow dye.
Really?
Missouri was one of the places that they had a lot of them, and they're just pretty much extinct now. This tree here was in my sister's front yard, and it went down in a storm, and she said, "This is a different tree. You might want this." And I took a big chunk of it, and she saved it for me before they burned the rest of it. And this is a piece, and I had made a
Wow.
you ever seen these in big lumber yards where they have these carts that have two wheels that they roll on?
Yep.
And I had made me, I have one of them, and I had made me a rack that were, because I had a bunch of burls, probably 15 or 20 burls sitting in one part of my shop. And of course, they just sit there. And I have all this exotic wood in there, and I never do turn it. So I decided to put a rack on this cart, and I get two shelves on it, and I can take all these burls and I stack it on this cart and stack it up, and I can get to any one of these burls now, and it's all off my floor.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and I can move this cart around anywhere I want in my shop really, really easy. So when I was
Well,
cleaning this out, that's when I found the smoke wood.
Well, you know what? That's good to know that it moves so easily, because I'm definitely going to come see you, and I've got a Ram 2500 long bed, so we're going to fill that puppy up.
Okay. I got all kind of wood.
I'll bring you up some proper mesquite.
Okay, I've never turned mesquite.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's hard.
Never turned
It's
mesquite.
hard, but man, it's beautiful.
Well, I'll trade you some burl for it.
Absolutely. Right on.
Thank
So
you.
that's what I got.
That's what I was writing here when I was looking away from the camera. Greg Bray, Bradenton, Kentucky. So yeah, you're writing. My wife's got a cousin that lives there, and we go and visit with him when we're up there as well. So, you know, that whole area, Flaherty and Vine Grove and E-Town, Fort Knox, you know, it's all back of the hand. 35W.
Yep. Redcliffe is right next to Fort Knox.
Yep, Ratcliffe. Yep.
I was born and raised right there.
All right. Yeah, that's good to know. I'll tell my wife as well.
Okay.
She's originally Thompson.
The Thompson. I
Yeah,
know
the
about the
Thompson.
Thompsons.
Yeah, the Thompson clan.
Does she claim all of them?
Some of them.
Some of them. Okay.
Yeah. Lee and Harry, she claims.
Okay. You know, I know them.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, it's a small world.
Yeah, so Lee's good people. Whenever I talk to him, I address him. I go, "Hey, hillbilly," and he calls me, "Hey, city slicker." Of course, I'm not from the city, you know. I'm a hillbilly myself, but
I don't know him real well, but I do know him.
yeah, he's a good dude.
Yep.
He's got cancer. He's on the downhill.
That's
Sad.
not good.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. I'm when I'm up there, I'm gonna come see you, Greg.
Okay. I'll be looking forward to it.
Right on. All right, let's go back to Ohio.
Who's in Ohio?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Brenda.
For Band-Aid Brigade.
No Band-Aids this week.
No Band-Aids?
No. You know what? Funny thing is, my grandson, you know, comes over 2 or 3 days a week, you know, and I babysit him.
Right.
When his mom's at work, you know. Well, I was sitting on the couch with him the other day, and he says, "You got any Band-Aids this week?" What do you mean? He says, "Well, you got a lot of Band-Aids all the time, you know, so." Yeah.
Take him out in the shop and show him some stuff, how it happens.
I have. He loves playing out in the sawdust. Yeah. So this week I made a coffee scoop.
Yep.
Ooh,
That's nice.
I know where you got the idea for that.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was a good demo, huh?
Yes, it was. Yes. I started with the right measurements that he used. Piece of basswood here, and I'm not sure what this one is, but I didn't want to like he did.
And for the folks that weren't here last week, we had a demonstration on making those coffee scoops that hold 2 tablespoons.
Yep, 2 tablespoons
by Johnny Hughes.
And
so
he showed how to get rid of that
if you haven't watched the replay, watch the replay video.
Yeah, he showed how to get rid of that little nipple in the bottom, but I didn't. I left it in there. Coffee don't care.
No, coffee don't care. Nobody knows it's there except for a wood turner.
Yeah.
That's all. Only person to check it.
I used another piece, but this one he started with a 2x2 square. This one wasn't 2x2. So when I went ahead and finished it up and finished this one with Parfix. Yeah. And when I measured it, this one actually measures up to be 1 tablespoon. So I got 2 tablespoons and 1 tablespoon.
Nice.
And then when my grandson come over and looked at him, he says, "That looks like a hammer." He said, "Can you make me a hammer, you know, like the judges have?" So the next day I went out, made him a hammer. Yeah.
There you go.
You write MC on the side of it.
Well, I had to make him a little block to. Okay. I thought it was
Did you
upside
make a
down.
new? Did you make a new block?
That one's spelled right. That one's spelled right.
Yeah, they call that a sounding board.
Silly girl.
Okay, yeah. And I figured he's just gonna beat it up, so I didn't turn it around or nothing, you know. But when I first did it, I did another one. I don't know what I done with it, but I spelled Judge Jodge. Didn't even realize until my girlfriend pointed it out to me. Yeah. He's got a best friend that comes over. His name is Gavin. So one side is Trenton's and the other side is Gavin's. And here you can see where I originally put the O. I forgot to change it when I went to redo it. So there's a little bit of the O. That's when I realized, forgot to change it.
Yeah, it happens.
But he liked it. You know, it's good enough for him. So
hey,
he was
make people happy. Whatever you try makes people happy.
Yeah.
Right?
He come home from
You know what, Brenda? When you spelled it the original way, at least I knew how to read it. And then you go spelling it the way Webster wants you to spell it. Now I don't know what you mean. And, you know, if you ask just about anybody, when you die and go to heaven, hopefully you go to heaven, who's the first person you want to meet? And a lot of people have some really great answers, but I'll tell you what, mine is Webster. And I want to find this guy and I want to punch him in the nose because he's made my life miserable since kindergarten. Why do we not spell words like they sound?
Right.
Yeah,
Some of them.
So I support your first spelling.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And then you have people telling you got a speech impediment. Like, well, no, the letters don't make that sound.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna comb my hair.
Right.
Well, he was excited when he got home from school and seen it.
I'm gonna take a photo, but with PH photo.
Yeah.
It looks great, Brenda. I love it.
Right on, Brenda. Good job.
I love the fact that Doug says when he combs his hair, come on, Doug, you gotta have hair. Yes, it knows.
Right. All right, let's go to Randy.
Randy Smith out of Pennsylvania. Now we
I
woke
caught
him
you
up.
napping. Caught you napping, didn't I?
Hi, everybody. Somebody, Joaquin, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but
Joaquin.
Joaquin, he made a comment about a sanding rig that he did, and this one is mine.
Oh, nice.
About a 5-inch ring, and it has a faceplate on it. This is a faceplate that's rather unique. It's in 2 pieces. Okay, the ring is a separate piece. This hub screws into it.
Right. Yeah.
You can get additional rings in different sizes. I forget where I bought this. I bought it many years ago, and it lives on this ring because I make pens on regular.
Was that from Carter? Because I think they sell something like that.
I don't remember where even I bought it.
Okay.
But the second part of it is this little gizmo.
Oh,
It's an offset sander.
mortise taper.
It's a pen mandrel that's been cut off. And of course, it has a drawbar that goes on the backside.
Right.
And to keep it in. And it has an MT2 thing that goes in your tail.
Taper. Yep.
And this allows you to sand any pen blanks you have. You can either, if you look at it this way, this loosens, and you can put like a transfer punch in here. So you can put any size punch in there. And this part came from a gentleman on penturners.org. He does not have a website, does not sell these. He provides them only as a courtesy to members of pen turners. So
I have a rough coring attachment, MT2 taper, but it's almost identical. It just winds in and out from center to outboard, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see where that hits on my sanding disc.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's mine's a 5-inch disc, but same deal. Works great.
So
I'm used to listening. You know, when I sand the ends of pen blanks, when the brass is in there, I'm used to listening for when I hit the brass, the pitch changes. I don't know if I'd be able to hear it on. You can still hear it on the lathe like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I like that.
Unless your lathe is really noisy, you can hear it.
In fact, about 2 weeks ago, I was at a PA farm show, and I think I did a brief thing here on that. But
yep,
I found about 8 of my pens did not go together entirely. They didn't fit. There was a gap in the middle that I couldn't close, and I didn't know why it was that way. And I disassembled all the pens before I realized that the problem wasn't that I thought that the top knot and the transmission and ink fill were hitting each other. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The case was that I left the nibs actually full length. And because I can sand them and get them exactly to the tube length, I was not removing any of the tube. So when I pushed the transmission in, part of the brass part of the transmission was sticking out. Brass tube was hitting it and it wouldn't close all the way. So I posted a message on Pinterest and said, lesson learned. Don't assume that you know what the problem is before you investigate what it actually is. Because I ripped all 8 of these pens apart, remade all the blanks, glued new tubes into them, and I ran into the same problem again. So that's all.
But you know the remedy now.
Yes, yes.
Yep. So that's
And I
good.
know how to fix problems in the future is not to jump to conclusions.
Right. Yep. Very good. Thanks, Randy. All right, let's go to one of our Sub-Zero locations. Hey, Matt.
Hey,
Sub-Zero?
You don't look
Yeah.
cold.
that's because I'm inside. A couple people last week were showing some natural edge pieces, and I lost my connection and couldn't get back on before I had a chance to show mine. So I thought I'd show that. This is a piece of hickory, okay? And this
Nice.
I had a buddy of mine, one of the guys in my club has got a portable sawmill, and he was sawing up some hickory, slabbing some hickory for some folks at the picnic. And this is probably like last year's picnic. And this is a cutoff. You know how there's that last bit of it.
Yep.
So that's the profile. This is the profile of the piece that I cut, and it wasn't much thicker than this.
Top of the
So,
log.
yeah, and one of the things, I don't know if you all can see that bark on there. It's just really, really cool.
Oh no, I'm
yeah.
looking at the grain when you pull it back.
The
Yeah,
bark
the
looks
grain.
robust.
Way cool.
So, and on the back side, I hit it. It's an open grain wood, so I hit it with a torch on the bottom here.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
perfect touch.
So,
Looks good,
to
Matt.
really, because it really makes it pop. And I got a couple pieces where I did the whole thing with the torch, but I thought I'd show that. So thank you.
Oh yeah, appreciate it.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Great. All
Thank you.
right, let's go to let's go across the pond.
Who's over there?
Well, it's our demonstrator for tonight. It's Paul
Oh.
Hannaby. And so
Yeah,
he's
'cause
got
you know-
something to show. And I figure
Yeah,
after Paul's done showing what he wants to show, he can just delve right into his demo.
Yeah. Now I got something else. I'm just going to show you these. Some walnut bowls I've made.
Ooh, walnut.
Oh, it's pretty much straight-sided on the outside with a foot on the bottom, as you can see.
Yep.
Fairly simple, and the inside is curved. These were made to order to that specific shape. Somebody had some already and wanted to replace ones that they've used. These are intended for use as food bowls.
Right.
But that's one of. We'll grab the others here. There's another 3 there, so there's 4 of them in total.
What's the wall thickness? About 4 mil?
A little bit more than that, maybe about 5.
5?
Possibly 6. Yeah, it's fairly thin at the top, but it does thicken up because of the shape. So at the bottom, that's just a simple curve, but at the bottom, with the straight side, it thickens out at the bottom. But,
oh, it looks good. Some pretty wood.
Yeah, it is.
What's the finish?
It's boiled mineral oil. No, not mineral. Linseed oil. Boiled linseed oil.
Yeah.
A couple of coats of that.
Nice.
So that's a food safe finish. Not all boiled linseed oil is. Some has chemical dryers and hardeners, but the brand I use is guaranteed food safe. It is just pure boiled linseed oil. But it's just some bits of walnut. But yeah, nice wood actually. Yeah, nice grain in it.
Yeah, it's pretty wood.
Thank you. Very pretty. Yeah, I'll be doing something different tonight. It's not those.
So do you want to go straight into your demo, or?
I mean, if there's other show and tells you want to do those, we can finish those off. But yeah, if you're ready,
Yeah,
I'll
sure. Yeah, I got 2 more, and then we can come back to you, Paul. That'll work.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Joaquin.
Okay.
Bouncing
This
around.
Joaquin or the other Joaquin?
That'd be you.
Okay. Oh, well, it was funny that Brenda's making mallets. I'm doing custom joiners mallets. This is my personal design. And because I have some friends that are furniture bakers. And so this is to persuade pieces to get together. But when you're putting in dowels and things, if you use that side, you squash your fingers. So I made this little narrower head. You can hold a dowel and you're not going to bash your fingers in. That's persimmon, which I absolutely love turning. Persimmon is such a lovely wood. And then this one's got a cherry handle. But that's my Steal the Design. This, believe it or not, is drilled dead center, but when you shorten this, it looks like it's off when you do the angle. And then yesterday I was having a rough day. I turned 2 mallet head blanks, both of which were so cracked, I decided I couldn't use them. And I was just having a rough day. So to redeem myself, I decided I'd make a little bowl.
There you go.
Just a
Very
little
nice.
7-inch maple.
Little bit of therapy.
Yeah, that was the, I do know what I'm doing on the lathe in spite of the wood deciding it doesn't want to help.
Yeah, sometimes the wood is the wood, you know?
Yeah.
I like the
It does
detail on
what
the
wood
bottom.
does. I think it's Jimmy Clues who will look up from during the middle of a tutorial of a lesson and say wood moves. That I was having that day yesterday. It was bad.
Yeah, it happens.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
What was your
Joaquin, hold
Joaquin, what
up
was
the
your
mallet
place?
again. I'd like to see the handle.
Oh. So I do these handles. I ask the customer what size work glove they wear. So this customer wears an extra large, which I wear. So I made this handle to fit my hand because I wear an extra large work glove. I have a teenager who has very much smaller hands. He wears a medium, so I'll get him to hold a mallet and tell me what needs to change. And then my girlfriend wears a small, so I'll have her hold a mallet and tell me, oh, that's too thick, that's too thin. So that's how I size and shape my mallets. And I always leave, I shape it so that the bulge is lower so that you can put your thumb. This is my personal preference. And if a customer said they didn't like it, I'd change it. But I've always found when you're trying to do something precise like drive a dowel, you need your thumb up on the back of the hammer, which is why I keep the bulge lower so that you have room to get your thumb and get that leverage. I don't have it here. My personal carver's mallet is really short. It's about this short, but I have an angled slope here. Something I learned shooting Western single action revolvers is you tuck your thumb or you tuck your pinky under the grip of the revolver, and it counters the
recoil.
Blowback.
Counters
Yeah.
the flip. But it also, for my carver's mallet, I have it short with that little angle there so that I can put my pinky underneath the bottom. So imagine just a slight plane right here, and then the bottom's lower. So you tuck your pinky there, and it gives you a little extra, just a little extra tap. I wish I had it in the house. It's out in the shop. But so that's another design I do. So imagine choking up on it, but having your pinky under here, and it would end right here. And that gives you a really nice little extra flip. I don't know how else to describe it. I'll have to bring it next week. I'll bring it in the house and show you guys. But
Yeah,
it really, for the carver's mallet, it gives me a lot of control.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
That's
nice.
some good thought processes there. Thank you, Joaquin.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
and
very
Joaquin, so you know, I'm wearing the shirt tonight that you sent me for Kim Tippin's fundraiser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
the only problem with the shirt, and I know we're not supposed to get butts in this, but you sent me the male t-shirt.
Oh, sorry. You know what? You could take in darts and make it a little more form fitting.
Right.
Doug, you need to get with me. We need to get you some followers on TikTok.
Yeah, I've been following you, but honestly, I don't even know how to use the thing that good. I'm an old person, so that's why I use Facebook.
What?
But I like
I'm almost 50. You're younger than me. Contact me. I'll help you out.
All right.
That'll work. Thanks. Thanks, Joaquin. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Hey, during the meeting, if you got time, you can run out and grab that mallet and we can come back to you later.
It's cold out there, Dane, but I'll do it.
I'm sure it's not a long jump for you, so that'll work.
Dedicated.
All right, cool.
you're under
Well, let's
50.
go to a warmer climate in Texas. Hey,
Who's
Tim.
that? Who's in Texas?
Well, it'd be Tim.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So earlier, Eddie was talking about face plates, and I don't use my face plate for extra things other than actually securing. But I do use like drilled out pieces of wood, and of course, put that 1/8 TPI thread in there with thread cutter, and that's a little 5-inch sanding disc. And then I also use nuts that I pick up from Tractor Supply or other places that are also 1-inch and 8 TPI, and put them inside things like this. This is going to be about a 9.5-inch sanding disc. I got called away, had to train the National Guard in Texas for a training mission, so I didn't get all my little shop projects done. I'm still in the process of changing things, but what I wanted to direct everybody's attention to was this little jig here, this rig. You'll notice it's in a Morse taper, and it's basically a table that fits into your tailstock. And I got this idea from Earl's Small Segment Shop on video. Okay, so this becomes a table so you can sand your segments. Fits in the tailstock like that. So when I get this as a sanding disc, and I finish this up with a piece of angle aluminum instead of angle iron, it's made out of aluminum, then I can adjust based off of here any position I want for segment placing when I finally get into that part of my wood turning. But so that was just some of the things that I've worked on in the past week, and then I know that
lower, we missed some of it.
Okay, one more time. This is
there we go.
It fits down onto on your tool rest, so it's leveled and centered. And then you have the wheel, which would become the sanding disc. Okay, so that's a nice stable platform. So if you're doing segment turning, there'll be a piece right here on the front of this plate, which would be like angle iron, but made out of aluminum. And then you can put a stop in there to position your segments as you come out.
That is slick.
And that idea is not mine by any means. I do a lot of searching when I'm out training the garden. I'm sitting in a hotel room at night. I do a whole lot of YouTube searching for cool things for my shop, because I'm still in the process of building the shop. But I saw that and I thought, what a great idea for flattening pieces or doing anything else. As far as sanding your segmented pieces and stuff. I can't afford a 12-inch sanding platform, so this works for me. Or it's going to be working for me. And then the other thing,
you can do your pin blanks like that as well.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that like I said, I do a lot of YouTube searching. I went on and found the Papa 1947, I believe his handle is on YouTube, and I know he's part of our group here, but he came out with a way to cut segmented bowls or bowls that are made out of a piece or two pieces of wood, and it's basically a stacked bowl. And he uses a 50-degree angle and a 45-degree angle. So what I did was I made a tool rest, and I put those angles in there. So when I am using my thin parting tool, I can cut those bowls in the segment from a single piece. So if you guys get a chance to check out his channel, he's got some really, really good stuff in there too for people that may or may not be you know, as proficient as the rest of you, it's a great resource, and it's one of the many that I use for.
Oh,
ID.
that man.
I like him
is
too.
a
He's great.
genius. I agree with you. Yes. He's a former pattern maker.
Yeah.
Retired. Yes.
Yeah. I've had the
Yeah,
privilege
he-
of having a conversation with him, and the man is a genius when it comes to segmentation. He's incredible.
Yes.
Abso-stinking-lutely, man.
Yep.
You know, and a lot of these ideas are definitely not mine. I get them from Eddie. I get them from other folks that want to put that information out there on YouTube. And I built my shop basically off the backs of other people. And an example of that would be the overhead shelving all the way around my shop here. That's tied in, you know, tied into the rafters and stuff. I got that from a guy by the name of Jay Bates, looking for storage ideas on how to put a garage worth of garbage in here and still have a shop. So lot of good info out there. No wood turning for me because I just got back the other day. So that's what I got going on.
That'll work. Appreciate it, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Dave from Lakewood.
Howdy. Good to see you guys again.
Yeah,
Dave's not
definitely.
up. Hold on. Try
I'm
Dave.
here.
Go ahead, keep talking. I'm looking for you.
I'm talking, jabbering away.
I got you.
There we are.
There you are.
Well, what I made this week was just a little doodad that there were some trees locally that were oaks that were very well loved that got knocked down and taken down by the city. And I got some of the wood, and well, I had to make an acorn.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
Gorgeous.
Nobody else wanted one?
That's real nice. They haven't seen these yet. I'm sure they will. I'm hoping they will.
Yeah.
That's cool. The box, that's cool.
Did you
Yeah.
text
Yeah.
her? Did you text her to top, Dave?
Yeah, for the first time I ever managed to texture anything and have it come out well.
Nice.
It's
Good
hard
job.
to see, but yeah.
Oh, we
Good
can tell
job.
it's there. Yes.
And you
Yeah,
can
just-
make the acorns all different sizes because there's not a single one that looks the same.
Exactly. And it's just teak oil is all that's on it.
Yep.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Looks good.
I find women like little boxes like that, you know, for keeping stuff in their purses and whatnot. Those are cool novelty things.
Yeah, probably roll off your dresser, but
Well, no, I mean, they keep it in their purse.
yeah,
Yep. So right on. Appreciate
that's
it.
it. No problem.
All right, let's go back to Eddie. And then after Eddie, we're going to go back to the UK for our demonstration by Paul Hannaby.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, we're all together this evening. And if some of you are wondering when we talk about what we do and how we do it, and why we do it and such, we do this for the benefit of wood turning. No commercial business whatsoever. I mean, you can say I'm using such and such a tool to do this. We'd prefer you not to say you can only do this with such and such a tool because, you know, honestly, you could probably turn wood with a screwdriver. It's not easy, but you can still do it. But we hear a lot from our members. And right now, I can't see the number because I'm not on that screen. Got 94 folks watching it tonight, 94 members joining us this evening at this exact moment. But we hear from the members about things we do, and we get a lot of input. This is one we received this week through our club mail, and this was from one of our turners, Shannon. And it's a very nice note about thanking us for what we do. He became friends with Ronnie, Doug, Dane, all these other folks. And you can see the note here. He feels welcome to each meeting. Now, he can't attend the meetings because it conflicts with his schedule, but he joins us by internet each week. And this is a nice note, beautiful note we received from him. This is why we do this, really. Because we're here to share things, help folks out, and get information out there. But yeah, when we started this, 858 days. Yeah, we keep count. Ronnie and I were talking about this. Ronnie Burnett's my partner in crime. Ronnie and I were talking about how to do this clubby thing. And the conversation came around to, you know what we want? We want to go sit on the tailgate of the truck and talk about wood turning. And that's exactly what we do. We're sitting on the tailgate of the truck talking about wood turning. And you won't believe it, but some of the best wood turners in the entire world joined in. There's barely any room left. There's room for you, but there's barely any more room left. We have professional turners, professional demonstrators, folks who actually sell tools that don't sell them here. We have people from every aspect of wood turning, free. With that, I'm going to go to a free demonstration in the United Kingdom. Yes, we're worldwide. We're going to go to the UK and see Paul Hannaby. Can you set him up there, Dane?
Yes,
and we'll
sir.
Go to Paul?
Yes, sir. We're going to go to Paul right now.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, Paul.
How's it going?
And I want to put out a special thanks for Paul for stepping in to do a demo. My regular scheduled person was canceled on me, and I contacted several people, and Paul was able to step in and take care of putting on a good show for us tonight. So I hope everybody enjoy, and Paul, my deepest thanks about it.
You're welcome. That's no problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, what we're going to do tonight is what I call a sort of a winged bowl. There's one here which is made out of a fairly thin piece of wood. That's masseur birch. You see the figuring in the wood if I get a bit closer. So that was sort of part of a log. I normally start off with a long one. That's a fairly short one. Here's a half a log. This is lilac, which some people find in the garden, grown in the garden. That could be a start point for this. So it's a longer than usual blank. Let's put it that way. So half a log is generally where I start, and as you can see, that's about probably 4 times as long as it is wide. So that's the sort of norm. I've got a couple of other pieces here. These are sort of slices off a bigger log of, again, masseur birch. So there's that one, which is probably about 3 times as long as it is wide. Fairly thin blanks, these. I mean, this is a piece that was sliced off, and there's another one here that's probably a little bit thicker. But I think they just make an interesting sort of start point for a bowl and something slightly different. So that's what we're going to have a go at, and I'll go for this one. This is the longer of the 2 pieces. The masseur birch slightly longer. So I'll switch over to the lathe. I'm going to have a look at this. So I've got my piece of wood here. What I want to do is roughly find the middle of that. The reason for that is just so I get the same length of wing sticking out each side. Do it with a ruler or a tape. I've got a tape here, so I've got a 12-inch blank there, so 6 inches that way. And then on the width, we've got just over 5. So if I go there, that's close enough. 2 and a bit. So that's my start point. To mount this on the lathe, generally with a natural edge blank, whatever the size and shape are, I'll mount it between centers. So I've got myself a 4-pronged drive center to go into the headstock and a live center to go in the tailstock. This is a ring center. It doesn't have to be. I tend to use ring centers a lot. Just out of preference, I suppose. I mean, I like the fact that they don't tend to penetrate as deep as a normal conical point center, and also I generally rough turn a bowl. I'll put a ring center mark in it, so when I want to remount it, I can use that to remount it. Or if I turn the bowl and then turn the spigot away when I finished it, again, if there's a ring center mark in the bottom of that spigot, then I can remount it to turn that away. So that's the plan. So I'm going to mount this so the flat side is at the tailstock side, because that's going to be the bottom of the bowl. So I'm treating this as I would turn in a bowl. So I'll mount the the point I've just marked on the tailstock, on the point there, and I'll bring the tailstock up to the headstock. So this wing is sort of mounted between centers, but loosely. I've already established that that's the center of this board. Let me just take this camera up slightly to give you a fuller view of where we're at. That's better. So it's mounted central lengthways, but with any natural edge blank, what you want to do is try and even it up in the sort of plane across the bed this way. So the two sides of the blank are fairly uniform, and also in the long axis, I want the two wings, the top points here where I'm pointing here, to be an equal height on both sides. So what I can do to check that is if I bring my tool rest in here, let me just adjust that camera a bit there. So I'm near the end of the piece of wood here, and just spin the blank round. I can see if it's evenly mounted both sides. It's not far off. I mean, it's a bit loose anyway, but I'm not far off there. So if I just put a little bit more pressure on that, I'm within 1/16 of an inch probably there. So that's close enough. If that was a long way out, I would adjust one of the two centers to try and twist that to straighten it up. But that's close enough. As 1/16 of an inch is good. And on the other plane here, likewise, if you really need to, you can bring the tool rest into this side. I've got it just almost touching here, spin the blank round, and it's about the same distance away each side. So again, we're good to go there. It's fairly central and evenly mounted. So I'm going to wind my center in now. So I'm putting some pressure onto those drive points. So a little bit more pressure there, and then lock that. So that's now ready to roll. I'll bring my tool rest around to the flat face. Essentially, I'm treating this as a bowl, and turning the bottom of the bowl and a spigot for the chuck. Before I go any farther with this, so I've got my tool rest where I want it. Just that. That's actually moved a bit now. I've tightened it up. I've got here, I can just get my finger in there, but on the other side, that gap's probably half. So that probably wants tweaking slightly. But now I've got the 4-prong drive driven in there, I'll actually loosen the point on the back rather than the 4-prong drive, and see if I can just tweak it that way. Closer. Needs to go just a little bit more, I think. I mean, now I've pushed a hole in there, I've got to try and persuade it to mount sort of on the side of that hole, and it's trying to draw itself back in. That's closer. That's good enough. So we'll go with that. Having said that, when I checked it first time round, I did it on the top of the blank. So let's just check that again. There I'm nearly touching, and there I'm nearly touching. So yeah, that's pretty good. So happy with that. Lock the tailstock down again. So bring that in. So I'm lined up across the blank. Always give your piece of wood a spin if you've got anything that's irregular before you turn the lathe on. The lathe speed is set to minimum before I turn this on. I try and make a habit of doing that with anything I put on the lathe. So if that piece of wood was to come adrift, it's starting off at low speed rather than at 2000 RPM or whatever the maximum speed is. So before I turn the lathe on, I'll stand out of the firing line, put my visor on, and start the lathe up, and then slowly bring the speed up. So if we work on the principle that that's a 12-inch blank, then I would be turning it probably about 500 RPM. Because it's a wing and it's irregular, I'm going to turn it a little faster. So I'm here at about 850, somewhere around that ballpark. So I've now sort of proved to myself that that's safe, and I can stand in front of it and turn it now. So I'm going to start with a spindle gauge. This is a 1/2 inch spindle gauge with a long fingernail grind on it. You can use a bowl gauge or a spindle gauge on the outside. I tend to use a spindle gauge for a lot of bowls of this sort of size, mainly because almost all my spindle gauges have that fingernail grind on, whereas my bowl gauges, if I grab one, a lot of them are like this with a traditional grind, straight grind, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't have the swept back wings, which I would need to use for a pull cut. I mean, obviously here I can't really do a push cut because I've got the tailstock in the way. To do a push cut, I would need to have my gauge over here like this, and obviously with the tailstocks there, that's not practical. So here I'm working with a pull cut to start shaping the outside of this bowl, wing, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's fairly secure. So I'm going to start shaping the outside. Or obviously this is like a propeller, so keep your fingers behind the rest. So don't let your fingers protrude over the edge of that rest, for obvious reasons. So I'm going to start fairly near the outside and just do a moderately light cut. Shape wise, you can sort of shape it how you like. I mean, here I'm thinking I'll probably aim for an OG sort of curve. I can't really see a lot of what I'm turning here. It's always that case that you're turning a propeller, and when it's spinning you can't see a lot of it. So I'll take a fairly light cuts. Just stop there and see how we're proceeding, so you can see where the cut's happening. If I go to that, we can have an inset as well, so we can see. Let me just.
That looks good.
Up there, so you can see the wing as I'm turning. So the wing here, you can see where that OG starting to sort of form, and I'm thinning down the edge here. What I want is to take that flat away, so I've got a complete curve on the edge of the bowl. But as it's an OG, I can work on the corner and then work on the center section. One tip when you are working on sort of interrupted edges like this, if you want to call it that, and you can't see exactly where the edge is, I'm just going to move my rest here just so it's you can see here we're opening up distance between the wood and the rest. It's definitely an advantage to keep that to a minimum. Just again, I've moved the rest, so I'm spinning that by hand to make sure it doesn't hit the rest before I turn the lathe on. If you're unsure as to where the edge of the wood is, what you can do is drop the handle lower, find it with the bevel. So all I'm doing is running the heel of the bevel across the wood there. So I'm picking it up, and then when I know where it is, I'll lift the tool to bring the edge into play and then make the cut, knowing that I've just found where the edge is. So you can find the corner with the heel of the bevel, then lift the tool, take the cut. So if you're in any doubt, that's a good sort of principle to apply. Just give me a second, my visor's starting to mist up. I'm just going to demist and carry on. Right, that's it. So just carry on with that. I'm doing a pull cut here, but I'm trying to do it in a way that I'm virtually running on the bevel, so I leave a reasonably good finish here. You can do a pull cut in a more aggressive way, but here I don't want to tear the edge too much. Even with the way I'm doing it here, you can still see here, there's the odd little bit that's tearing up rather than cutting cleanly. But part of the reason for that is because I'm cutting away from the bark edge rather than into it. So as I approach the final shape, what I can do is actually switch to a push cut from the outside. I'm kind of breaking the rules here a little because I'm cutting against the grain, but it's a compromise between do I cut with the grain and tear the edge, or do I cut against the grain with a gentle cut, so hopefully I can get a cleaner cut on the edge here. And we know those long fibers that are tearing away like that, it's probably a good idea just to trim those back. Just doing that with a pen knife. Do it at this stage. This side's not so bad, and then I can sort of continue on with the cut. So I'm going to come a little bit farther around with the rest. Again, spin that piece before I turn the lathe on. I'm just going to bring the speed up a little more. I'm sort of approaching 900 RPM there. Try and take as light a cut as I can on this edge. Down near the bottom, I'm obviously away from the bark edge now. I'm this central part of the cut. I've still got some edge there, but as I start to shape this, that will disappear. The edge is sort of improving, but there's still the odd little bit. It may be that, depending on the wood, you won't get it perfect, but let's persevere. What I can also do is, some woods respond better to sort of cutting one way than the other, and cutting against the grain and trying to clean the edge is sort of having some of the right effect. But if I drop the handle right down low and do more of a shear cut here, then that may improve the cut on the edge. So sometimes it's worth experimenting with the piece of wood you're using to see which of those cuts it responds to best. So I've just worked on this bottom section here, and that's actually given me a fairly clean cut just by doing more of a shearing cut. And also you can see right on the edge of this corner where it was flat, that flat's now disappeared this side. There's a tiny little bit left on this side. So I still need a little bit more wood taken away. But that shearing cut does seem to be the best way to go with that. So I'm actually still going to be cutting with the grain. So I'll proceed with that and cut up to the edge with it. So handle low, fingers behind the rest still, and just try and get a low angle cut. And as gentle a cut as I can, really. It's not an easy cut to do when you've got an interrupted edge like that, because you're trying to make a cut with the bevel supported, but in a way it's not for 90% of that cut. So it's bit of trial and error to get the right position for the cut, and when you've got that, persevere with it. I'll try just doing the end Going back to the push cut again. Let's see how we're looking on the end. Well, that end's good, and that end's good. Yeah, there's a little bit of roughness on that edge, but I think what we've got there, I'll be able to get rid of at the sanding stage. So we'll treat that as the outer bit of the OG, the reverse curve, and then I'll start to shape the curve the other way on the center section. So coming in a bit and working into this bit. I also need to make myself a chuck spigot in the center, so we can address that at the same time. So I'm going to bring my rest back round to the bottom section, back here. Now the set of jaws I'm using are here on the chuck. It's 1.5 inches. I've set my dividers to the diameter of that. The internal gripping sort of dovetail on that, with the jaws open by about 4 or 5 millimeters. So it's forming a perfect circle at that point. That's the important thing, is you try and make your chuck spigot the size of the natural diameter of those jaws, if you see what I mean. So you've got as good as a perfect circle as you can get. So when you attach your piece of wood to the chuck, you get maximum contact between the two. So I'm just going to use my dividers to mark that center where the spigot will be. Before I do, actually, I'll just flatten it. I don't think it's far off, but just in case, because these jaws are very shallow. The full depth of the jaw is just under 5 millimeters. So my spigot will be at best 4 to 4.5 millimeters deep. So there's little margin for error. So starting off with a properly flat spigot certainly helps. So there's my spigot marked. So we'll remove a bit of wood, and as I said, maximum depth about 4.5 millimeters. So I'll take away enough wood to create that spigot in the center. With most sets of chuck jaws, I just guess the length of the spigot, because there's usually more to play with. With these, I tend to measure it, because 3 millimeters and 4 millimeters, it doesn't sound a lot of difference, but it can be significant. Just have to watch my visor bouncing on that camera. Right, so where are we? I think that's at about 3. So I want another millimeter depth on that. If you've got one, depth gauge is quite useful for checking your spigot depth. I use one for box making, so this is what I've got. And you loosen the screw and you slide that in and out, and it's millimeters one side, inches the other. So you've got.
I love that. I have the same one, Paul, and I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I just turned around and looked to make sure you didn't take mine.
Yeah,
handy
I
little
got
tool.
one too.
Yeah, they're an inexpensive little tool, but has a multitude of uses. So I can put that across my base here and check the spigot depth. I mean, I'm setting this to 4.5 millimeters. That's the plan.
And that looks just like
that should be perfect for my set of jaws. And I've actually gone slightly too deep there, so I need to take just a little bit off. Got carried away and took too much wood off. So I remove about 1 millimetre. Just check it again. I mean, rather than me just relying on the measurements and my guesswork, I could have actually used the chuck, put this up to the chuck, and that is the depth there is pretty much spot on the depth of those jaws, which is 4.5 millimeters. So let me just do it this way. So I set my depth gauge to the jaw depth, which is there. Yeah, it's 4 and a bit, and that's just under the jaw size. So we'll check the spigot against that, and we're hitting the bottom before we bottom out. So that's just about right. I'm within probably 0.5 millimeter of where I want to be. I've created a straight spigot there, so I want to dovetail. So if I just cut down the edge there with the gouge, with the bevel pointing straight along the bed. Obviously I'm going to create a parallel sided spigot, but if I just bring my gouge farther round, my bevel's now pointing inwards. So if I come in on the edge just 1 millimeter or so down, then I can create a dovetail. And I know from experience that with that particular set of jaws, that angle's a pretty good match. So that's the spigot done. It's a case of removing this step that I've created here to form the bottom of the bowl now. So we can turn some of this surplus away. With many bowls, I'll create the spigot as the first thing I do. With this one, I didn't, but yeah, I could have done. So we'll start shaping the bottom half of the OG. I'm thinking ahead here, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with that spigot? Am I going to actually remove it completely, or will that become the foot when I finish this bowl? So, and I think given the size of the bowl and the size of that spigot, that's probably not a bad size for something like this. So I'll probably just reshape that, and that will become the foot. Obviously I've got a center mark in it, so I need to deal with that when I do it. So I'll turn some of the center away, or at least remove some of it in some way. But yeah, that could become my foot. So it's more sort of thinking ahead and how are you going to finish the bottom of the bowl? Where's the foot going to be? How big's the foot going to be? And don't sort of fall into the trap that because you've got a certain size set of jaws on your chuck, that's how big your foot's got to be. Don't be sort of led down the garden path by the chuck. You're designing the bowl, and it's up to you how big you make the foot. Don't do it just because your spigot, your chucks. Let's say you've got a set of 2-inch jaws. That doesn't mean your foot's got to be 2 inches. You can make it any size you want. Obviously, that's at the turning stage for the bowl. You need a 2-inch spigot to make with that set of jaws. But once you return the base to turn that spigot away, you can make that any size you want. So now I've turned some of this base away, and I'm starting to put the curve into it. I'm going to change sort of the dynamics of where the top half of the OG is as well. So I'm going to take more wood away up there as well. And again, trying to keep that handle low. So I'm doing a more of a shearing cut when I'm approaching the edge of the wing. Try and get a better cut. See if that works better than the push cut. So yeah, you see I'm getting a bit of fuzzy edge there with that cut, but it's sort of trading that off against how much tear you get if you cut backwards against the grain. And in this case, it's a sort of swings and roundabouts on that one really. So bottom half of the curve coming sort of into a better shape now. A little bit more to do on the wings. One thing I do like about the push cut is it enables you to cut backwards and forwards as I'm doing here. So it has its advantages. See how it's going. That's giving me a slightly better edge. There's still a little bit of fuzz, but it's actually reducing, and I'm getting a cleanish cut on the actual the outer curve part of the OG. So
Yeah, it looks good,
it's a bit
Paul.
of. Sorry?
It looks good.
Okay.
What kind of wood is that?
It's Masso birch.
Masso birch. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it comes from Finland and sort of the Baltic region. It's a really nice wood. I've used it for many years, and I colour it as well. As a lot of people sort of hold their hands up in horror about colouring such a highly figured piece of wood, but that's why I use it, for the colour.
Yeah, it's got some great speckle in it.
It gives you sort of the varying rates of absorption because of the figure in it, and that's what I like about it. Right, so I'm just going to try and refine this curve. But what I'm looking at when I'm doing this cut is the edge profile to see what curve I've got and how that's sort of panning out across the whole profile of the wing, if you want to call it that. So rather than sort of looking down here at where I'm cutting, I'm looking up over here at the far side to see what the curve's doing against the background, so I can see where I need to add or remove wood when I'm actually doing the cutting here. So yeah, shape's sort of coming together. It's a bit of a sort of step in the middle, not a step exactly, but the curve isn't as smooth as I want, so I've got a little bit more to refine in the middle. I'm just going to do a slight sort of cut just away from the spigot, so I'm leaving a flat around the spigot for the jaws to sit against, and then cut upwards slightly from that point, just so that when I reshape the bowl I've got a little bit more to work with when I reshape the spigot. I mean, when I'm forming the foot of the bowl, and that'll be the sort of the final stage on this. I'm trying to keep that handle low.
Yeah.
This rest here, I've got one of the robust rest here. it's great for keeping the edge flat, but it's actually quite a wide rest in sort of this dimension, and it's limiting how low I can get my gouge handle. So I'm going to switch to one of the one-way rests, the short one, which is a little narrower, just so I can get a little bit lower with the gouge handle. So we'll see how I get on with that. And what I'm trying to achieve here is as much of a shearing, slicing cut as possible to give me the best edge I can get. On most of this edge, that's working reasonably well, but right on the very tip, that's where it gets a little bit inconsistent. So I'm finding the edge with the bevel, then coming back with the tool and just taking a light cut.
For a final cut, it's a good idea for a fresh edge.
Yeah. So that's not too bad. There's just the odd little bit of fuzz, which I think I can get away with sanding away. I'm happier with the shape now. The odd little ridge there, but those can be sanded out, I think. So that's sort of the bottom edge, and I can see here the edge profile is a nice curve. So I'm happy with that. It's quite a shallow OG, I would say, but there's nothing wrong with that. They don't have to be terribly deep, and given the thickness of this, there's a limit to just how much curve you want to put in this, and put too much curve in there and you end up sort of with too flat an edge. So it's a bit of a compromise on working with what you got. So I'm moving the rest out of the way. I could sand this side now. I'm not going to actually. I'll sand it when we reverse it to do the to reshape the foot, etc. So that's the outside turned as far as I'm going to turn it. Let's take that off the blade there. Get rid of my drive center, and then I can mount my chuck. Whenever you put your chuck on the lathe, clean that back face. Make sure you've got a clean face on the end of the spindle there. So you get any shavings caught between those two, and then it's going to just throw the chuck out slightly. Stick that on. I'm just going to take my knife center out so I don't end up piercing my elbow with it. And on this being a short bed lathe, I'm just going to take the tailstock off so I've got more room to get access. So let's bring the
easier on the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So put my piece of wood in there, and I'm just pushing the center of the blank so it's seating as evenly as possible on the jaws. Tighten that up, and that seems to be running fairly true. So good to go there. This rest is a little bit short. It's not far off actually, but I'll go back to the slightly longer rest, the 9-inch one. I think that was a 6-inch. Back to this one. Again, I'm going to set my rest up so I'm running across the surface of that and below center. So when I put my bowl gouge on here, I'm cutting at center height. That's a bit below. I'm just debating whether
may I ask you to, of course. Paul, may I ask you to adjust your second camera, lower it a little bit? Your insert.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Your insert. Lower the camera for the insert.
Lower this one. Yep. Okay.
Yes, sir.
That better?
There you go. There you go.
Good. Okay.
Yes,
Brilliant.
yes, sir.
I'm going to use
these entry cuts.
Yeah. I'm going to use a bigger gouge here. I've got a 1/2-inch bowl gouge rather than the 3/8 I picked up first, just because I'm working on an uneven edge, and if I'm going to get any bounce on it, I want a fairly sort of rigid tool. So it probably seems like overkill, and it probably is, but I'm just making sure I don't get any bounce on the tool. Right then, so spin that by hand, start it up, and away we go. So same as any other bowl, start in the middle, start turning that away. But remember, we're working on this natural edge, so when we come in on the edge, it's an interrupted edge, it's not a continuous edge. So take care with the cut there. And this is a fairly shallow piece of wood, so I'm not going too deep initially. It's got quite a distinctive smell, this wood. I'm not sure I can describe it, but it smells like no other wood I've turned. So it's not an unpleasant smell, but it is quite sort of distinctive.
Quite aromatic.
But for those of you who've never come across it before, as I said earlier, it grows in Finland, and all these markings in the wood are from beetles. They bore in through the bark, effectively make holes in the wood, and then I'm assuming it's like most woodworm, they would lay eggs in the wood, the larvae develop and eat their way out, but then the wood grows over it, and it sort of heals itself and grows over it, so you end up with all these markings in, and it's a radiating pattern out of the center of the log, and it's quite unusual and quite interesting.
Yeah,
so you can see from the top view we are following the curve pretty much, so that's not a bad sort of guesswork as to where I've been cutting. And again, as I showed you earlier, I can always find the corner with the heel of the bevel and then bring the handle forward and pick up the cut. So I use the heel of the bevel to find the corner that I can't see, and then take the gauge forward to pick it up. Take the handle forward. What I mean by bring the handle forward, if you consider the gouge on the wood there like that, if I take the handle around like that, I'm lifting the bevel off, aren't I? I'm bringing the heel of the bevel in, and it will lift the edge off. So then if I'm running the bevel on the wood, I'm not cutting. But when I find the corner, I bring the handle forward, so I bring the edge back in, and then it's going to contact the wood, and then I'm going to take a cut. So that's what I mean by sort of bringing the handle forward, taking it back. So you find the corner on the heel of the bevel without taking a cut, but when you found it, bring the handle forward and you take your cut, and away you go. Hope that makes sense. Right, so we've got still a good 1/2 inch thickness there, so I want to thin that down some more. And again, my visor's fogging up, so just give me a second. I think it's because my workshop's cold. I ought to have put the heating on earlier. It doesn't usually do that out here. Okay, I'm going to bring the speed up just a little more as well. I'm doing about 950 now. So, try and find that edge. Again, use the heel of the bevel, bring the tool forward, and take my cut in. The reason I increase the speed is to reduce the bounce on the edge. I don't want to go sort of crazy fast, but I do want a little bit more speed just to make this more consistent. But you see there, I'm starting to thin down, and I'm trying to keep it consistent on this outer edge. I've left the center. I'm just going to do the outer section of the wing and then thin it down. This is quite an interesting outside on the bark, so there is some merit in actually leaving some of that visible. So you could actually leave this thicker and chunkier than you might with an ordinary wood, just to show off that unusual dark edge. But I don't want to go excessively thick with it, so I'm paring it down. I'm probably down to just under 1/4 of an inch now, about 5 millimeters maybe. A little bit more maybe. I mean, the one I showed you earlier, I think that was, let me just pick it up and have a look. Yeah, that's about 2 and a bit millimeters thick, so we can go a bit thinner. I'm not sure I want to go 2.5 millimeters with this one, but a little bit more than I have. So again, find the corner, handle forward, take another cut. And then we'll just check that again. So that's looking okay. The sort of smoothness of the cut isn't bad. Cutting fairly clean on this side. I'll take another cut. And then maybe that's the last one. I don't know, we'll see. So that was a much thinner cut. Thinking ahead, if that's a finishing cut, I don't want to take a big cut. I'm now sort of almost taking finishing cuts. So that feels smooth, it feels flat, no bumps and ridges, so I'm happy with that. And thickness wise, we're down to probably 3 millimeters at the extreme of the wing. It thickens out slightly as it comes in, so I think I will take one more cut, but without taking any more off the extreme of the wing. I'll just come in just off the edge and just try and even that out a little. Again, taking a very thin cut. So that's evened it up better. I think it still needs a little bit more. So I'm just going to reduce that circle I've created inwards slightly. Better, so I can come in on the wing. Get down a little bit farther this time. And the reason for that, I'm approaching the bottom section here to see where I'm going on the thickness, and yeah, that's still thickening up slightly, so a little bit more off the wing. So thickness wise, that's now much more even from there to there. So I'm happy with that wing, and now it's the center section. I've just got to remind myself to keep my wrist and my hand the right side of the rest here, so I don't foul that wing as I move my hand across the rest. I'm just going to take a quick look there. I know I've got certainly a couple more millimeters to go. Thickness wise in the middle, that's about right. I'll just need to work this center section.
And then out to
Paul,
the,
you're making it like I'm there doing the turning. It's awesome. You're doing an awesome job.
okay. So you can see here, I've still got a ridge. I've got another cut to, at least one more cut to thin that down to the same thickness of the rest of it. So on that last cut, what I aim for is not to just pick up the ridge, is to feather the cut in just before the ridge. If you aim to pick up the ridge, then quite often you'll take sort of 2/3 of it away or 3/4 away or whatever, but you leave the ridge there because you hit start the cut on the ridge, cut in, and you've left a bit of it behind. But what I aim to do is come just back outside it, you feather the cut in, and what I mean by that is if you imagine you're cutting around this curve, and now you're cutting sort of following that curve, but you angle the tool in slightly. So instead of just following it, you actually cut into it, but you want to hit the curve at a very shallow angle. So you don't leave a ridge when you start the cut, basically. So you start off with a cut of 0, and as you move the tool forward, it gets slightly thicker. And that way you feather the cut in and you don't leave an edge. You don't leave another ridge. But you see on this edge here, it's thickening slightly in the middle from about here where that circle was that I've just cut away. So back to that point and take another cut just to try and even that out. Just get rid of that fuzz. Now one more. It's still slightly thicker in the middle than it is on the wings. And again, with each of these cuts I'm taking, I'm trying to feather it in so I don't leave a ridge. And that last cut wasn't quite right, so I'm going to take one more. Okay, let's see where we are. That's not too bad. There's a little bit of a ridge out here, but I think I'll get to the point where this is starting to flex. So it's a case of, do I take another cut? Thickness wise, I'm sort of almost there. What I'm going to do is just sharpen this gouge on my grinder. And then do that last cut with my lamp forward slightly so I get a better view. I'll pick that up. And one more. So it's where that ridge was out here, the little bit of unevenness I'm trying to smooth out, but each cut is actually probably just making it as bad as the cut I'm taking away. So I think because it's now starting to flex, there's less strength in here. So it's the movement of the wood that's causing that. It's actually distorting as I'm taking the cut. So from that point, I think it's discretion is the better part of valor. So from there, sand it. Otherwise, I'll end up with no wood and nothing left. So I'm going to sand this initially by hand. I've got I'll say by hand. I'm going to do it with power assistance, but And the reason for that, if I sand this with the lathe running, I'm going to round off the edges of the wing. So the center part you can do with the lathe running, but certainly these wings, it's best to sand them with the lathe stationary. And you notice here I've got this is rotating clockwise from the direction I'm looking at. From this end it's running clockwise, so as that's running across the edge there, it's running away from the edge, so it's not going to kick and pull. If I've got this on that edge running in that direction, it'll kick on the edge and it'll potentially pull this where I don't want it. So when I'm on this edge, what I would do then is run the tool backwards, so I'm running away from that edge. So I've got a reversible drill, and I'll make sure that wherever I'm sort of sanding on an edge, I'm turning the sanding arbor away from it rather than into it, for that reason. Let me just back this camera up slightly, so hopefully it'll give you a slightly better view of the sanding process, and we'll switch to that as the main view. Okay.
That's a good shot.
So I've started off with a 120 grit here, just to take out any bumps and ridges, basically.
Boy, is that ever pretty.
And I can see this flexing as I'm on the corners here. I can see how that flexes as I just bring the sander onto the surface. So it was getting to the point where going any thinner was going to be quite problematic. But I think that's a good sort of thickness for this. It's about 3 millimeters, I would say. That feels better. There's a little bit there I need to get rid of. So the first grit, as with anything you turn, the first grit, the job it's got to do is to take out any tool marks, any bumps and ridges, any torn grain, any other blemishes you don't want people to see, basically. So all those things you don't want in the final finished piece, that's what you're trying to get rid of with that first grit. So don't go to a finer grit until you've achieved that. And if the grit you started with doesn't do it, go coarser. There's no point going to a finer grit until you've addressed all those bumps, ridges, torn grain, tool marks, whatever you've got to deal with. So, and I think that's where a lot of people can sort of let themselves down, perhaps unintentionally, but you leave the odd tool mark or the odd bit of torn grain or whatever, and as you sand down through the finer grits, the finer you sand, the more obvious they become. Just the nature of the wood, because as you sand it finer, the wood tends to darken slightly, but anywhere you've got torn grain or bruised grain, it gets lighter. So you end up with this difference in tone between the good bits and the bad bits become more and more obvious. So it pays to sand it all out with that first grit and be done with it. I'm just going to reverse that because I'm coming up this edge now. I've locked the spindle this time just to make it slightly easier so it's not moving when I'm trying to sand here. I'm just checking that to feel that it's smooth. And I've got that shallow OG on the end, I can feel it. There's a little, I think up here I've got a little sort of a bug trail or something, a bit of and there's one there, but I think with this wood it's part of the character of it really. You get those occasionally, but it's an old one. There's no live live rodents in there, whatever you want to call them. So we can go down through the grits now. I'll go to 180 next. This arbor, it's quite a stiff arbor, but I've got a foam backer on it to give me a bit of a softer pad. So I can use it without the pad to get a softer surface, or with it, with the pad to get a softer surface, or without it to give me a harder surface if I want to create a flatter edge. So it depends what I'm trying to sand as to whether I use it with the pads or without. Not the most exciting things to watch, I know, but a necessary evil. Yeah, you can, if it's sort of less extreme on the wings here, sand it perhaps with the lathe running, but obviously if you're getting your fingers close to this, you've got to be very careful not to catch your fingers on the edge.
Yeah.
And it spins past, so always want to be wary of. But yeah, with a shape like this, it's very difficult to do it with the lathe running. So it's easier just to go over it with the lathe stationary, I would say. That's feeling about right. So we'll go down to 240. Sometimes with these I'll do the outer bits with a drill like this, or with a pad, and then sand it by hand, just with a piece of abrasive in between my fingers, and sand it that way. But this one, it's a moderately shallow curve, and it's sort of working well with sanding the whole thing with the sander on the drill here. So I'll continue with that over the whole thing. So down to 320. I'll probably sand this to 400. I mean, I've got abrasives that go much finer, but I mean, generally on a light coloured wood like this, I'd probably stop at about 320, maybe 400. But as this has got some nice figure in it, and sometimes you do actually get the chatoyance in the wood, as they call it, as well, it pays to sand it fine and put a moderately shiny finish on it to capitalise on that chatoyance in the wood if it's there, which I think it will be, at least in parts.
It's a pretty piece. It is a pretty piece.
Because along with those sort of the black marks you see, which are the sort of the remnants of where the beetles have been in the wood does show just sections of figure as well, just like sort of ripple figuring and the like. And I can see that starting to appear as I'm sanding it finer. So to try and bring out that figure more, I will go a little bit finer. I'll go as far as 400 on this. What I was saying earlier about the coloured pieces that I make with this, I've not made any for quite a while actually, but I've got some really nice logs to make use of, and hopefully in the not too distant future I'll start looking at those and cutting them up. But I'll show you one of them in a minute so you can see that radial pattern. This piece was cut sort of laterally out of a log, but if I show you the end of a log, you'll see what I mean about the way that pattern develops in the log as the log grows. So I'll fish one out for you when I've finished this. So that's the outside sanded to 400. these couple of little sort of beetle trails or whatever you want to call them, I'm not going to do anything with them. I'll just leave them as they are. In fact, all I'm going to do is go over that with a brush, so if there's anything loose in there, we get rid of it. That sanding process has thinned this down a little, so probably a good job I stopped where I did. So finish wise, I'm going to use a sanding sealer and a wax finish on it. Just trying to fish out the appropriate kind of cellulose sealer.
You know, in that piece, you could play find the picture all day. I see a bee.
Be a second.
Yeah, Brenda, you'd have fun with
That's
that.
Oh, there it is.
That'll keep you busy, Brenda.
It would all day long. See a
Hey,
frown.
Brenda, did you see that tree I sent you on Facebook?
Right, turn the blower off so I can hear what you're saying. Was that a question?
No, we're just talking about how beautiful
Okay.
the wood is and the various animals Brenda could find in there.
Yeah, it's surprising what you find in wood sometimes. I've turned pieces of
I
wood and
see
found some.
several dogs.
Yeah.
Do you see the whale?
quite big
The big sperm
larvae
whale,
in it.
Moby Dick, Brenda?
No.
I see the octopus. Do you see the octopus?
Yeah, octopus.
I do
There's
see
even
a
a
dolphin.
there's a pterodactyl too. There's two of them.
You, Eddie.
You people
Right, so
are
this-
crazy.
He's joined the club.
And I can't wait to see some oil finish on there.
Oh,
Yeah, what I'm using is a
Sanding
cellulose
sealer.
sanding sealer, which is an aerosol, just for speed, really. So again, I'm going to spray that on with the lay stationery.
And that's funny because all I see is a bunch of squiggly lines.
Good coat
You
of
haven't
that.
been in this club long enough to be able
Yeah.
to see anything.
Oh, they're
You gotta look.
beautiful.
There's a big moose in. There's a moose in there.
It looks like fur.
If all you see is squiggly lines, you would never pass the I'm crazy test. You must be.
So I'll give that a minute to dry. It's fairly fast drying, being cellulose. So I'll just give that a minute. Yeah, what I normally do is 2 or 3 light coats of that, and if you put a light coat on and then another light coat, it dries fast. If you put one heavy coat on, it tends to take an awful lot longer to dry.
Now, is
Give that
all
just
the
a little-
bark off of it, or is it still on there?
There's no bark on it at all. What you're seeing is the edge of the wood that's beneath the bark. That they
It's
tend not to
gorgeous.
ship the wood with the bark on. There's the odd tiny, like here, there's the odd tiny little remnant of bark, which I can usually break off. But it's one of those woods. They always take the bark off in case there's any live bugs still in it. So I think they don't ship it out of the country with bark on it.
It's
For
gorgeous.
that reason, it always arrives minus the bark. I've never seen a piece of it with the bark on, but the edge of the wood is quite unique anyway. I think with
Beautiful.
I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like if you look at the burrs under the
Yeah,
bark,
it's
you've got all
beautiful.
those little knobbles and bits. But this is quite a unusual wood with the
That's
bark off it.
spectacular.
So I'm just cutting that back with some 4/0 steel wool, just to give me a nice smooth surface.
Somebody Like sent that
to you, or did you buy it?
You
Pardon?
know, all Americans are salivating over here over your wood.
Oh, right, Sue? Right?
That's
Yes.
exactly right.
So there was a question. So that's Mesur birch, and it grows.
Yeah,
in
MASUR. Yeah, it comes from Finland, or I think you can get it in some areas of Russia and sort of the Scandinavian countries.
I
But
mean-
Finland, I think, is the usual place. But it's also known as Karelian birch, and I think that's one of the regions in Finland or something like that.
or?
Yeah, because it doesn't grow in England. Yeah, you had to buy it.
No, definitely not. No, you buy it from one of the importers, basically. Yeah, it doesn't grow here.
It's got a figure in it besides the bug in figure in it is absolutely gorgeous.
Isn't it though?
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it. Yeah, definitely. Without the efforts of the bugs, it would just be a plain piece of birch.
Right.
It's
I think
gorgeous.
the actual species of birch is probably the same as we do get grown in the UK, but you don't get the same bugs.
Is it
I remember looking it up. It is. It's very expensive. Yeah. Costs an arm and a leg. Yeah. So I took the logs I've got stashed away. I almost had to take out a second mortgage for. But
And folks,
yeah,
Paul used this as expensive wood for a demonstration for our group.
absolutely. Yeah. Don't cut any corners here.
Right, I'm just going to run the lathe on that, and I'm just
At
going to
one
be very
point,
careful to keep my fingers back, so I can run the pad across the surface without putting too much pressure on it. Because if you put pressure on it, you're obviously overshooting the edge. So just lightly buff that. So that's the top face done.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. At one point, we had 98 viewers watching this.
Yep. But you see that?
Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
beautiful?
beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice stuff.
That is spectacular.
But I mean, between these sort of the black lines, there is some figuring there. And I don't know how well the camera sort of transmitting that, but
Look
Yeah,
at
we,
the,
we can see.
you've got a
we
little
can
bit of
see-
fiddle figure
running
in
bit
there.
of wood.
Gorgeous.
It's
Yeah,
fiddle.
we can see the
it looks
chatoyance in the
3D.
quilting.
Very nice.
It looks 3D. That's just, I've never seen that wood before.
Yeah, it almost does. Yeah, you're right. Right, so
bet
on the
Kate-
sleeve
I bet-
trucks.
Kate,
Paul,
I
it was
bet
a
you got
great
some of that.
demonstration. Thank you.
Okay.
Kate,
Yeah.
Kate,
Yeah,
I
I
bet
got
you
a
got
little
some of
piece or
that
two.
sitting out in your
I
back
do a lot
40.
of those bowls as well. They're fun. They're a good adrenaline rush.
Yep. Yeah.
Have you
angel
got time
wings.
for me to finish off the bottom?
That's
Yes.
what I call them. I call them angel wings. Yeah, go ahead. Do
Okay.
the bottom.
Yeah.
Right, carry on.
Show how you're going to put that foot on
Shouldn't
there.
take too much longer. I've got to reshape that foot and sort out the sand in the back, obviously. So my spigot here, as I said earlier, I'm going to try and reshape that to become the foot of the bowl. I mean, this is about in the middle, 3 millimeters thick or so, and I've got another probably 4 there. So total of maybe 7 millimeters there to be playing with. So to mount that on the lathe, what I generally do is to use a wooden mandrel. So I've got here, this was the base of something else I parted off, a hollow form or something like that. And I've kept lots of these. And all I do is put a nice gentle curve on the front face. And then I'm looking for one that's a reasonable match for the surface of whatever curve I'm working on. That's probably not too bad. I've got another one up here I'm just going to check, which is somewhat flatter. So this one, as you can see, is a bit flatter, and that's actually got multiple sort of chuck points on the back, so I can actually use that on 2 or 3 different sizes of chuck. Actually, that's a pretty good, yeah, that's a pretty good fit. So I'll go with this one. But yeah, I've got a few different curves, sort of flatter and sharper curves for different shapes of bowls and things like that I reverse in that way. So put my tail center back in. So I want my 4-prong drive here back in the chuck. I mean, for the purposes of this, I want to try and get closer into the center. So for this one, I might, because I'm trying to keep some of that foot, I might just switch to a normal conical drive like this one. So I'll put that one in the tailstock. I don't need a lot of pressure here. I'm not doing any heavy cuts. I'm not doing anything drastic with it. So I can use just the conical point here. So anyway, between that and my bowl, I want a bit of protection because I just polished this surface. So what I've got here is a piece of non-stick router mat and just an ordinary bit of kitchen towel. So I'll put that together to make a sandwich. Put the router mat against the mandrel, the kitchen towel against the bowl. So that will protect my surface. And then bring my tailstock in.
You're using the cone will help you center it, right?
Yes, but I could have used a ring center to center it. So that's how I'm going to hold that, and I can now turn the back of this. That needs just a little bit more pressure there. Now that might be a little bit too flat actually, but no, that's okay. That's giving me enough enough drive. Right, so I'm just mounting my rest here. If I switch to the overhead view, give you a better idea of what I'm doing. So I'll just set my rest up here so I can get in, turn this. That's located and mounted securely, and there's enough friction between those two now to give me the drive I need. So if we go to, there's that one. I'll move that camera slightly. Let's get this so it's not being obstructed by the lock on the tailstock, that's all. That's a bit better. Okay, so that's getting a better view there. Right, so I'm going to switch to a smaller spindle gauge. I've got a 3/8 here now to try and finish this foot. So I want to thin the foot down ever so slightly. So I'll just take a little bit off the surface again at this stage, just using a pull cut. I could actually flip that over and do a push cut if I wanted. Either's good. And then cut in towards the center. I'll leave a little bit there for the moment, but I can take a little bit more of that away. This has got a little bit of a wobble on it, so I'm just going to stop and see how I'm mounted. I think that spun slightly on my mandrel, so I'll just try and realign that to even it up. Slightly better, but because this is fairly thin, I need to have this running fairly true. So I'm just going to have another go at some adjustment there. I may be better off switching to my other mandrel. This has got a little bit of too much of a flat, so the curve in the middle against the flat is just trying to flatten out the bowl a bit, if you see what I mean. So although it's good on the outside, it's not giving me the support where I need it in the middle. So I think I'm actually going to back that out and switch to that other piece of wood, which has just got a slightly more of a curve on it. It's not a big difference, but it's sort of a subtle difference that I think is putting the support where I need it. So I'm just being a little bit cautious with that. Right, so center back in. And immediately that feels more secure with less pressure. Okay, let's hold that there. Got a spin, that's good. You can see I've got a little bit of a knot there as well, so just got to be a little bit careful where that knot is. Right, so the edge of what was my chuck spigot, I want to take that dovetail away. I don't want a dovetail on it because then it just looks like a chuck spigot. I'm putting a curve in the opposite direction on it. So just a little bit of almost a cove on the corner of it. And then smooth out the base of the bowl. I can actually, now this is running true, I can actually turn my gauge over and do a push cut into that base. And then the base of the foot here, I'll flatten that off. I'll just trim it flat again because having relocated this on a different mandrel, it's not running on quite on the same plane. And then I'll thin out the center here to remove that center mark. So I'm thinning that out to pretty much the depth of the foot plus a millimeter probably. So yeah, I've taken about 4 to 5 millimeters back, but any more than that, and I run the risk of going through. I'm about right, I think, where I am, or at least I'm hoping I'm about right. But yeah, that little bit in the middle, I'll leave it where it is for now. I want a little bit of wood there to support as I sand, although I'm sanding it again with the lathe off. So in theory, I don't need too much pressure there. Anyway, right, so we'll go back to 180. I think I should be good to go with a 180 on this rather than a 240. But as I said earlier, whatever grit you start with, that's got to do all the legwork. If I can't get it all with 180, I'm going to have to go back to 120. But let's see where we go. Right, might reverse that camera slightly now. I'll back it up a bit so you've got a slightly better view of the sanding process. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so I mean, there's probably bits to this I can't quite get into with the sanding arbor on here, but around the edge of here, I can run the lathe and sand the center sort of inch and a bit there between my two fingers. I can sand that with the lathe running, so I don't need to worry about getting right into that center. What I want to do is to do the wings with the drill. So I'll put my dust extractor back on, and then we'll have a go at this. Here I'm running off the other side, so I'm going to turn my drill into reverse. So I'm running this off that edge rather than onto it, as I explained earlier. So the drill doesn't try and skate off the edge. It's much more controllable if you do it that way. This is, I mean, for those of you that have turned any sort of birch, this is very similar. It's quite a soft wood. It cuts fairly easily and it sands fairly easy. So you don't need a lot of pressure. Yeah, it's a nice wood to work. But yeah, as it was mentioned earlier, very expensive. So we're trying not to make too many rejects, but it happens. I remember once I was making a hollow form and I went through the side of it, so I ended up with a small master birch bowl rather than a hollow form, but I rescued something out of it, so that I wasn't too disappointed. But if you don't try with these woods, you don't learn, do you? So it's a case of practice.
Yeah.
And as I always say to people, if you don't go through the side occasionally, you just aren't trying hard enough.
Right.
I'm just trying to sand out the wings with this. There's a little bit more just here. There's evidence of either a little bit of bruising or a little bit of tearing. I'm not quite sure which, but I'll just give it a little bit more of a sand. That's much better. See, that didn't take an awful lot extra, but in the finished piece, that will pay dividends. It'll look better. Right, so that's that end done. If I flip this around the other way, do the same again.
Notice those wings flexing?
Oh, yeah. Which would do the best move?
Sure looks like it.
That may not have caught it earlier when he
Well, as I'm sanding this wing down, I'm losing the fuzzy bits off the edge.
You noticed earlier when he was doing the flip side or the inside of that piece, he left some beef in the middle as he was hollowing or thinning it down, and he kept stepping down. And that's important. If you try to make it all in one pass, you get to pick the pieces up later.
That's right. Just like a big bowl, you want to leave that center mass in there to keep the wings or the walls from flexing.
So again, just look for anywhere that you think there might be any bruised grain, torn grain, anything like that. Make sure you sand that away.
Actually, the thinner you get, the
Right,
worse
so I
it
think
will
that's
be.
good on the wing. So take off the spindle lock, and the center part I'll sand with the lathe running, also at 180 grit.
So I'm working on a solid section and out as far as I can feel just that I'm just coming off it. So I can do close to 2 inches. And then the center part, I'll get in there and sand as much as I can. I might have to do a bit of hand finishing on that center part when it comes off the lathe, but I'll sand what I can now and we'll see where it goes.
Members, you're watching a 2-camera free demonstration.
But just remember, because of that uneven edge like that there, if I run off too far, keep your fingers in the direction of rotation. So if you do catch the edge, it pushes your fingers away rather than bending them back. So hurts an awful lot less. So that's looking good from the 180. So I can move on to 240. So I'll do the 240 on the drill again. And if that first grit has done all the work it should have done, all I need to do now is to take away the sanding marks left by the 180 grit. That's all this is doing. So it doesn't take too long, and it doesn't take too much work. And then when I put the 320 grit on, all that does is take away the marks left by the 240. Those little fuzzy bits on the edge will disappear as I sand.
This is one of the few times when sanding is actually interesting.
I think there's a little mark there that I should have got out with the 180, but I didn't, but I've just managed to crack it with the 240, so that's good.
And you're right on money, because some novice turners are young.
So that's the outside done with 240.
Yeah. They don't
Sand the
understand.
center in the same way.
Go ahead, Eddie.
So
They don't understand the
240
importance of
grit in the
sanding
center
without tool marks.
with a flat abrasive.
Notice he's stepping up. His piece was
Just be
very,
careful not to
very well cut.
overshoot that edge. So they're nice and easy on the edge.
Yeah, these pieces can be prone to having tool marks on them because you can't really see
And then
them.
320 on the drill sander.
Matt, isn't that where a sealer comes in to help you see it?
Yeah.
This
yes.
What was
Yeah,
that, Susan?
Yeah, the sealer will help you see it. You're right, Eddie.
That's why I believe in it. I really do believe in sealer on products, because then you see exactly what your finish is going to look like.
Oh my goodness, it looks beautiful.
Oh, it is. My wife would say it's a beautiful piece of wood, except for all those wriggly things.
Yeah,
That was pretty good, Eddie.
Hey, I just tell it the truth.
And then 320 by hand on the center as before.
Hey, Gary, I keep a drill on the lathe just like Paul does. I power sand on the lathe just like he does. It's a great way to get a great finish on surfaces like this.
Yep.
Cool. And if you don't think you can afford one, angled drills are only $19 at Harbor Freight.
Yeah, I just bought a straight up quarter drill. It doesn't even have to be angled. You can get it in most places with a normal drill.
And then we've got the last one, 400 grit on the outside.
I've been to demos where they didn't allow sanding because it was a boring part of the demo. Pay
Like
attention,
hell.
folks. This is not boring. This is
No,
showing
not
you
at all.
technique.
This is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
It is. It's great.
This is
Yeah,
technique.
yeah, if you don't power sand, it's hard to explain it to somebody. So it's great.
I do this on all my acrylic pens. It's a lot easier, and you get such a smooth surface.
Well, you got a swirl rather than a deep cut.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you want to have a light touch with it. He's not pushing it really hard against the wood. He's light touching and keeping up the
Exactly.
circular motion.
And then 400 by hand in the center.
Letting the sandpaper work.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's absolutely wonderful.
You don't want to create a lot of friction because of
Right.
heat.
No,
It's
you don't want
getting
to
hot,
burnish wood.
you're pressing too hard.
If you burnish wood to make it smooth, it won't stay that way.
No, it'll
That's
straighten
beautiful.
out
No, because the
eventually.
fiber.
Okay, we've got
back up.
the rest of it is done. I'm just gonna use my brush to brush any dust off there. Sanding sealer and wax.
Paul, it's beautiful, Paul.
Gorgeous.
And that.
Is
Back
this
to
worth
off,
the
so it's a
admission
bit
fee or
quieter.
what?
Right, so we put
Some of the magic.
sanding sealer on here.
A little
I'll
bit
give
of
that
grain
30
sauce.
seconds to dry, and I'll put another coat on.
Oh,
Look at that color come to life.
I've still got
Gorgeous.
that center. Yeah, that's what I like about you just put the first coat of finish on, and it brings out all that color and figure in the wood.
it's
Yeah, so-
gorgeous. Now, how
That
do you
figure
get?
on the edge toward the top is phenomenal.
I'll give that a minute to dry. So once I've sanded all this, I'll deal with this little nib in the center. But that I think I can do after I take it off the lathe, so to speak. But I'll show you that in a sec. It's very easy to
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Folks, this is
Okay.
a great demonstration from the United Kingdom.
So when you coming over to visit?
Hey, when
Oh,
y'all
what's that,
pass
Barbara?
through when y'all pass through Finland, pick me up a log.
I got a spare bedroom in
do. That's dry
Florida.
now, so well, we'll cut it back.
Just throw a few
Okay, there
logs
are
on the overhead,
two,
bring them to the
holes in here from the creatures that used to live in it, but that's all part of the charm of the wood, I think. So
Paul, how are you going to do the nub in the center there?
I'll show you in a sec.
All right, I'll hold out and wait then.
Yep.
So I just want to run the lathe and just get that center part. Just careful with this steel wool not to grab the edge with it. So I folded it well back on itself, as you can see there.
Yep.
So there's no, I mean, with all that loose stuff, if I was doing it like that, then it's a little bit iffy. So I folded it back on itself, so I've got a fairly firm pad there, and it's not going to get caught on that piece of wood as it spins. Right then, last bit, well, almost the last bit. Put some wax on this. I'm using a Renaissance wax. It's one of the microcrystalline waxes. It's a synthetic wax rather than a beeswax, and I use that because it doesn't show up finger marks. Basically, you can handle it all day and it doesn't show up any marks. Whereas the beeswax based polishes tend to dull and show finger marks if they're handled a lot. The Renaissance wax or any of the microcrystalline waxes are slightly higher melting point. So whereas beeswax, the melting point is close to your body or close enough to your body temperature to melt slightly if you handle it. I don't think it's entirely body temperature, but certainly makes a difference. Right, so I'll do a bit of buffing by hand on these wings, just to get the process going.
and then I'll run the lathe. Again, fold the pad that I'm using so I can't, or I avoid the risk of catching those wings, and I can feel it running across the wings there, but just touching. That's hard. All you do is shred the pad. This is like a paper safety cloth, as they call it. Dropped it there. Well, that should do it. Right, so that centre bit, I could turn a little bit more of that away, but I don't think I'm going to need to. So I'm going to leave that exactly as it is. Take this off the lathe, and then we'll work on that. I'll show you how I do it. I might have used this in one of my previous demos, I can't remember now, but again, it's a little piece of wood which came off something else I parted off. I've got a standing arbor just pressed into a good fit hole. If you want to take off a lot of wood, put a piece of 80 grit on there. If you don't want to take off quite so much, a bit of 120 grit. This is 120. That should do what I need. So that goes in the chuck. So, I mean, I could cut that off. I could try and carve it off, but I've got a fairly delicate piece. If I'm trying to carve that, I need to sort of avoid stabbing myself. So this way, and I'm just going to take out that live center so there's no risk of me stabbing either my bowl or me. Put my sanding hood back in and turn that back on.
Good.
So I can run my lathe a little faster now, and I'll just sand this away. So let me switch the cameras around, that's probably slightly better. So you can see here I'm putting my arbor up against the centre there. I've got both hands on a piece of work, I'm stable. I've got my elbow resting on the tailstock actually, so to give me even more stability. So I'm as stable as I can be here. Concentrating the sanding right in that centre. You can see already the centre point is virtually vanished.
Very nice.
I've got a little bit more to sand away. And as I've undercut that, I've got to just angle it slightly too, because I've got a curved edge on my pad, obviously. So just sand that away very gently. And do it from a couple of different angles so you don't get any sort of hard bumps and ridges. Okay, so that's done at 120.
This demo is like perfection at its best.
180 grit, smooth it out.
Best thing about this, folks, it is free. And you can be part of it. Just sign up. Say you want to be part of the demos.
Okay, so that's sanding that to 180. From there, I'll just go by hand. I could put a 240 grit pad in there and so on, but it's a very small area to sand. That's 240, so I can just do this section by hand. The advantage of doing it by hand on any bowl you do, or the base of anything you do, you can sand with the grain, and as I'm sure you all know, you sand with the grain and it's much less noticeable. If you're sanding with any sort of thing that's moving in one direction, you put sanding lines in that direction. So this way I can either sand it in a rotary manner like that, or I can sand it with the grain, which is along the axis of the bowl. So that's done at 240, then to 320.
$400.
I'm
Members,
shocked
if
my
you haven't
machine
seen it-
got wax.
And then
This
finish
is
at 400.
This is a seasoned Turner sharing his ideas with you.
That knot turned out quite nice. You see there's a little bit of a void in the knot. I'm not sure how well the camera
Yeah,
shows
you
that.
can
There's a
see
little
it.
bit of a hole in the knot, but what's come through the other side is just literally a 2 millimeter or so hole. So if I'd have gone any farther on the top surface, I probably would have had a bigger hole. So that's worked out quite fortunately on that. Right, so I'm just going to use my brush and get rid of all that dust off the back.
I've still got a bit of wax on my pad, so all I'm going to do is put some wax on that center section that I've just sanded away. Not too worried about putting sanding sealer on that bit. Just wax is fine on there, I think. And then get my buffing pad and just buff that out. So that's it, done. So bottom surface finish, got a reasonable shine on it. I mean, I quite like the wax finish. It's a good sheen rather than a high shine is what I tend to describe it as. And there's the front face of it. Some nice figuring in.
What a fantastic.
Thickness wise, you can see there on the edge, it's I don't know, 3 millimeters. It does thin out a bit on the wings actually to about 2, but and there's just an odd bit of paper stuck on the edge. Those little fuzzy bits on the edge, bits of paper and things like that. Tip for getting rid of those. Get a couple of shoe brushes and just go over the edge with a shoe brush, and that takes all those little bits of fuzz and whatever off it.
Oh, what a fantastic demo. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. So that's it. I'll show you one of those logs before we go. Give me a second, I'll go and drag one out. Because I mean, although I've said about this radial pattern, I think it's one of those things that you've got to see it for yourself. It's quite something. Right, just give me a second. I just need to find the log. Oh, there it is. Just got to rearrange my workshop to get to it. I should have got this out earlier. I didn't think of it earlier, but I thought, yeah, why not? Right then. Everything else is resting on that.
All good, Paul. All good.
When I see you incredible turners turning those in units, it always makes my heart stop. I hold my breath while you're doing it and say, boy, if I was doing that, it would be a red-green comedy.
Yeah, there's a few sort of heart stopping, but this is the outside of one of these logs, and you can see this is they take the bark off it. But if you look at it end on, you see that radial pattern.
Yeah. Look at those resin figure.
I'll just try and wet it a little bit.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, you can see that pattern radiates out and the figuring radiates out.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's some pretty wood.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice stuff.
That's a fantastic demonstration and learned a lot from it.
Good.
Yeah, there was a lot of great technique there. I hope a lot of folks picked up on that.
Thanks, Paul. I enjoyed it through and through.
Good, thank you.
You know, it's pretty good, you know, because Paul came through, you know, with like 36 hours notice.
Yeah, it was last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and what is it like 2 o'clock in the morning there?
2:45.
Wow.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, a bit of a late night, but there you go. I don't have to get up for work until 7:30, so I'll be fine.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
welcome.
Great job, Paul.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Very good.
I think I was the guilty one.
Thank you.
Knocking me home.
Say again, oh, Trace?
I said, thanks for jumping in, because I was probably the guilty one that canceled about a week and a half ago because I was going to be camping and I wound up canceling my trip, but at the last minute. But thanks,
No,
Paul.
we don't have to blame you. They'll blame me. What the heck?
No problem. We're always happy to jump in.
Fantastic demonstration.
You know, Trey, I don't even remember who it was. All I remember is the ones that I contacted, and you know, because that was, you know, yesterday, and Paul was a gem to come through, and folks, he did an outstanding demonstration tonight, and I hope everybody learned a little bit and definitely saw a marvelous piece of wood.
Now that wood is what, MASUR birch?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. If you go and look at my website, creativewoodturning.com, there's a few pictures of finished like coloured pieces on there.
Yep.
Yeah, I could just imagine that being dyed. Wow.
Yeah, I've got one in the other room. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll go and grab it. I'll be back in a second.
I went online and looked. That piece of wood would be about $150 or so for what he
Yep.
did.
Right at that, yeah.
That's amazing. He did such a great job. I sure appreciate it.
And that's free. I mean, members, this is free. This is what you signed in for. This is, and these folks are dedicating their time, their shop, their talents, their techniques, all to you to share the greatness of wood turning. And if you want to be part of this program, if you want to get involved, just say so. You can go and chat and tell us, I want to be involved. What can I do? I want to do a demo. I've got something to show. I got a technique or a trick to share. We have time for all that. That's what we do right here. And before we wrap it up tonight, I've got a video gallery that I really would like to show you. It's about 3 minutes long. I feel real bothered.
Can I just show you this piece, Eddie?
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
Hey, Eddie, let's take a look at what Paul has got here, and then we'll go to the video.
Can you pop it up? Okay, go ahead.
Then I'm going to come right back to you, Eddie.
All right, there it is. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
That
Let
is
me
a dyed piece,
the
folks.
camera. There you go.
Gorgeous.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So that's a hollow form turned end grain. So you can see there the pattern radiates out from the center, and the bottom's sort of natural wood color there. You can see.
Oh, wow.
So that's
How
the
did you
center
dye
of the
that, Paul?
pith. That's done with spirit dyes, and you put. I mean, that's about 3 different colors probably. You put one color on, then you sand half of it away, and then put a second color on, and so on.
Yeah.
Anywhere between 2 to 4 colors on these. This one I think was 3, but as I move it, I can see the sort of the chatoyance in the wood. You're seeing the colors change as well. So it's got purples and greens and turquoises and blues. So it's got quite a variety of colors in there. Again, the camera doesn't pick up some of the subtleties of that, but I have to take my word for it.
Beautiful, Paul.
What's your website, Paul?
Creative-woodturning.com.
I'm sorry.
Wait, say that again.
Woodturning.com. It's in his name.
Yeah, just look at my name at the bottom of my video.
Okay.
Creative-woodturning.com.
Hey, thank you.
Beautiful.
And you'll probably see this and a few others on the website. But I do. I've made them in the past in all sorts of colors. I've not made any of these for quite a while now, but I've got a few pieces of this Masso birch, and I think I'm going to use a bit more of it on some more of these. They're really interesting to do. What I used to do was to make, let's say, half a dozen or so at a time, and I'd do 2 one color, 2 another color, and 2 a third color, and then on the second color switched colors, so I end up with different ones, and then if I do a third color, switch them around again, so I end up with 6 completely different ones. Some I sort of liked and some I sort of didn't, but they always found somebody that liked them, so it worked out in the end.
That's awesome.
Then you go out and buy a Lamborghini, right?
Right.
Then you go out and buy a Lamborghini after you sell them all, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
That's good info, and it's great,
they're
great
awesome.
project.
Again,
Once
Paul,
again,
thank you
Paul,
so much
thank
for
you.
stepping in.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Paul. All the way
Welcome.
from
See you next time.
PA. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. We got more, folks. We have more. This is what the club is all about. But hey, I was saying earlier, I feel remiss because last week I had a little problem with the gallery. And hopefully right now you can see this. It's just a few moments long. This is a sample, just a sample of what our club does, because they send me the photographs to worldwidewoodturners@gmail.com. And here we go.
Very nice work, everyone.
Definitely great work by everybody.
Wonderful
Great
stuff.
work.
Yeah.
Man, I wish David Swain would join these meetings because wow.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
does.
I try to get David to join or to attend, but I think he's always out in the shop turning.
His boxes.
Get him to
if
take
you've
a
been
camera
looking
with
at
him. He
his
can do the
boxes
demos.
lately, holy cow,
Yeah.
that man.
Oh,
Wow.
I've been trying to get him to attend and to get him to do a demo, and you know,
I
it's
was
my-
going to say, I want him
all
to
my
do
next.
demos because that man can turn.
Well, that
Well,
one he
he's
had there,
got
he
a
does-
Rikon lathe, and he has issues with it, you know, like most people do that have a Rikon. So, but he
Like
does
we wouldn't
amazing work.
understand.
You know, he's good.
one of his
That
pieces
tail
had a
stock.
brass- one of his pieces had a brass finial one, and he turned that.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure did.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
No, I
beautiful
love.
work.
I keep
But
trying to
yeah.
convince him to like share his secrets. I've never seen anybody turn as thin as David Swain does consistently.
Okay, well, we got to get them lined up. I mean, if we all call
Yeah.
them at one time, you know.
Maybe Chuck Klein would like to do some segmented stuff.
Yes. All right. But you know, we talked about David just now, but and I don't want to belittle anybody, but did you see some of the other pieces we had in there? I mean,
Well, I
some
did.
were fantastic art. Some were so creative, it was unbelievable. And that's just a sampling of what we see. But
I did
if you
wanna
want to
say-
be a part of it, email your photograph to me.
I did want to say Brenda's tumbler was beautiful. That was a great piece.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I like the tumblers that don't have a lot of bulk to them.
Mhm.
I've got some right here that I drink out of every day. That's thin as paper over that sleeve.
Brenda did a great job.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. I did
That
that a
was
year
a
ago.
lovely
I still
job,
use
Brenda.
it every morning.
I
Well,
mean,
it's
look,
it's
Brenda,
gorgeous. Nice job.
Brenda, I'm in a club, baby. Look.
Eddie's got a band-aid.
Oh, look at Eddie.
Put him down.
Is that turning related?
Sort of. I'm trying to put the lathe and all back together again, and if you smash them, they bleed.
Yes, they do. Yeah, it happens when we get
I've
over
heard that
40.
rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you whip that handle around on a tailstock, and if your hand's in the wrong place. you
Yeah,
know,
owie,
Mhm.
owie. Uh-huh.
can't
And
holler
a few
because-
other words.
Yeah, the wife is only one room away. She'll come rushing in with first aid.
Hey,
Get-
Captain Eddie, I'll be sending you that wood soon.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sue. Thank you. I'm having a little fun turning little pieces and practicing some stuff. There are a lot of ink pens out of natural pieces. I have a piece of Asian jasmine out of my tree out front that they cut while I was away on hurricane vacation. And it's about 3 inches round. I'm going to have a little fun with it. Well, I'm going to find out if I have fun with it. It's been drying about 4 or 5 months. So with that, folks, we're going to run it to overtime. And we say it because if we don't throw the brakes on, this bus will run to midnight or more, which is fine, fine. And we've had a lot of fun tonight. And I tell you, the chat's like whispering to each other during a demonstration. You know, hey, Doug's leaving. Can we talk about him? Scott Hampton says, yeah, but don't make any fun about his bikini. You know,
Yeah, right. And then
we're
Scott
having a
leaves.
little fun. Yeah, and now we can talk about Scott.
Absolutely. But hey, Eddie, Joaquin ran out to his shop. He braved the cold and everything, so he's got that mallet, and I'm just dying to see it.
Okay.
Pop it
okay.
up, Joaquin. Show us that mallet, bud.
All right. So for comparison, remember this fits my hand. And when you see my carving mallet, you're going to go, what? But I'll explain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, it's short.
So this fits my hand. When I'm tapping a chisel, I don't need this kind of leverage. This fits my fingers. And if I need a little more, see this little angle right here? That's what I was talking about in Western shooting, single action pistols. You wrap your finger underneath the bottom of the grip And that keeps the pistol from flipping up. Well, I thought real hard about that. And when I designed this fits exactly my fingers. And then this gives me just a little kick. So when I'm tapping a chisel, I also drive wedges in it. I beat the crap out of this, and I'll probably take it to the sanding belt and clean it up. But that gives me just a little tiny flip when I'm just trying to move the chisel a tiny bit. That's all I need is just tightening my hand, just like that. So this handle fits my fingers, not my hand. This handle fits my hand.
And you don't miss a bigger swell?
Not at all, because I don't. This is a carving handle. I'm not sitting there whacking on a chisel.
Well, no, it's
tapping.
just
I'm tapping handle on a chisel. So I just want literally look. That's all the motion I use. It's just tightening my pinky. My pinky drives this hammer. That's all I need, because you just want to move that chisel a 1/16 of an inch at a time. So that actually, here, let me move. That actually shows it better. This fits my fingers, not my hand.
Yep. Full choke.
Good.
So, and then that's why the head's oversized. So this is all the motion, all the weight of this huge head gives me the torque just from that little clip. That's probably, I don't know, I'd say about maybe 300 grams just here. So there's enough kinetic, or there's enough potential energy turned kinetic when I do this, that it gives a good solid hit, good solid strike, but I have an immense amount of control.
Yeah, much more
because
control.
just tightening my hand, that's all I need to do to move that hammer, to hit a chisel head. And listen, actually you can hear it. That's just from tightening my hand, not swinging my arm. So it's all about the leverage of the shape of your hand.
Interesting. That's good to know, Joaquin.
Nice. And
Good
that's
explanation.
That's literally Western shooting, single action pistol shooting. That's where I figured that little leverage out right there.
Huh.
Just bad when we come to a wood turning meeting, we got to bring the guns out.
Right.
To make one with a pistol grip. That'd be
I'm
cool.
sure we all have a lot of them.
There's probably more than one in the group.
No comment, NSA.
Yeah, right.
Oh boy.
Big brother is listening.
We don't want to get in trouble.
Ain't no big brother here.
No, we don't want to get in trouble though. All right.
And
Remember, this is
Eddie.
all recorded. This is all being recorded, will be available on the internet. So watch. Yeah.
Oh, there's big brother there. So
Yeah, he's-
It's okay. I got put on lists when I joined the Navy. I'm not worried about it.
yeah, right. Yeah. All us veterans are already on that list.
Yeah, I've been on their radar since 1996.
1967.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible when the other day I had a flashback of something that
Poor
happened.
guy.
I was an adult and it was 50 years ago. That's what scares me.
Yeah, I know. I saw that post. Yeah, that's something else.
Yeah. So
Once
hey,
again,
I turned 50 next week, so.
Oh, it's no big deal. I turned 50 last summer. You know, it's just like another day. You don't notice a darn thing.
Right.
I turned 50.
when you grow up,
Turned
and
50
stuff,
25 years
Hopefully you
ago.
just
Eddie,
wake up
oh,
and
to
it's
be
just the same.
50
Like, yeah,
again.
okay.
I turned
That's
50 in
again.
11 years.
My back will hurt just the same, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's no change in that.
Eddie, oh, to be 50 again, Eddie. Oh, to be 50.
I tell you. I'm thinking,
I wouldn't go back to it.
50 years ago, I was going 8 months without a warm shower. I can remember those days.
Listen, we don't need to know about your personal hygiene.
You know, Eddie,
Yeah.
they had,
See the
they
little
had
green guy
benzo
over
ditches
there?
over there you could have cleaned up in.
Hey, we're way off track.
I was in
folks.
Korea. You know, there's no difference between Okinawa and Korea. Yep.
Okinawa, we
With
had
you.
hot water. Vietnam and Guam, no hot water.
Well, we had hot water in the summertime during the monsoons. Other than that,
I
it
was
was
gonna
cold.
say, in Guam, all you gotta do is just walk off the beach. You got plenty of hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the beach.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
beach
It was
was-
Guam, not Okinawa. Yeah.
The beach backed up to Guam. At Guam, the beach backed up to the bomb dump, and we could scoot down there. It's about a 2-mile drive and the deuce and a half to go down there and go dipping if things got slow. But that didn't happen a lot. No stories. All right, look, we got to call it a night. We really do. I enjoyed Paul's demonstrations.
Oh,
I
yes.
came away with a sheet full of notes, and ideas, and tips and tricks. And I watched a professional, a guy that sells his work and does quite well at it. I watched him give me a free demonstration right here. Invite your wood turning friends and join us next week on the tailgate of the truck as we talk wood turning right here on worldwidewoodturners.org. I'll see y'all next week. Good night, John Boy.
So,
Good night,
Eddie,
man.
real quick,
Good night,
I am
Take
looking
care.
for demonstrators for the month of March. Please get in contact with me.
Good night,
Those that
Dave.
are normal demonstrators, I will be contacting you.
Yeah, and look, here's the deal. If you don't get back to us, we sign you up anyway.
Sometimes, yep, that'll happen.
Save the
Good
chat.
night, everybody.
On the
Be
spot.
sweet.
Save
Be
the
safe.
chat.
Everybody have a great week.
Cheers.
Night,
Bye.
everybody. I know.
Night, y'all.
Night, everyone. Take care.
Night, everybody.